higher rate savings options. Savings rates are finally going up, and Forum has 12 and 18-month certificate rates you'll want to take advantage of to lock in your secure, guaranteed rate of return. It's time to start earning more on your savings, and Forum can help. Go to forumcu.com or stop by any Forum branch location today to get these great savings rates.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
It's Kevin and Query.
I throw, you catch. It's not that hard, okay? All right, get the out of here.
I'm going to talk a lot about drills and fundamentals.
Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
On 93.5
watch it.
And 107.5.
Boom, baby.
The Fan.
It's a glorious-looking Wednesday on this excitable intern Elijah's last day with us, apparently, which I did not realize. I had a whole smorgasbord of gifts for him, and looks like I'll be keeping those. Because we're at Colts camp tomorrow, right?
Well, I love how, Elijah, how old are you?
19.
Okay. No, I'll refrain from what I was going to say. Yeah, we will be at Colts camp tomorrow, and Elijah will be back in studio. 10 a.m. practice time tomorrow, so that's why we'll be up there setting the scene a little bit for the final practice day at Grand Park. Now, Jake, do you believe in jinxes?
I, for the sake of the show, embellish that I do, but I'm not totally. I'm about half, I guess. Depends on whether or not I'm the one creating them.
Well, I appreciate your honesty here at 7:01 in the morning. So, did you jinx Rigoberto Sanchez by placing him as one of your more indispensable, one of the top 10 most indispensable Colts?
I believe I put him at number 10, and the reason I did is because I said he is the one guy on the roster that does something that no one else can replicate, and thus, if he were out, it creates havoc for them. Now, hate to say it, this time of year, maybe not the case because the roster is not set, so you don't have to scramble, but you kind of do. He doesn't necessarily take up a roster spot because they'll IR him, I would assume, right? Mm-hmm. But now you got to go out, and it's a. For those that are not familiar with it, yesterday Rigoberto Sanchez suffered what is believed to be an Achilles injury, correct?
Yes. Further testing coming today to confirm that, but the earlier indications are
he's
torn his Achilles.
Listen, I do think, Kevin, that he is a better punter than he's given credit. Like, I think when we talk about guys on the roster that play their position at a high level within the league, I think he gets a little bit overlooked as to his value. I mean, I think he's pretty darn good. It's just simply now, and I get it. I mean, I totally get that I set myself up to be mocked when I had him at number 10. But I do believe that, A, the level in which he plays is hard to go out and replicate, especially off the street. And B, it creates, that is another challenge or obstacle that you just didn't have to necessarily want to deal with right now. That you have bigger fish to fry than to now all of a sudden scour out and find yourself a punter. And I know that they're not, like, impossible to find, but still.
Yeah. Hunter Smith's children. Maybe one of them's ready to go.
That's right.
Can Vinatieri's kid just skip college and punt?
That's right.
If I got 137 tweets, I'm sure I got 138 tagging Pat McAfee in a tweet to return to the Colts. So, yeah, you feel terrible for Rigoberto, and I would acknowledge as well, Jake, not only is he a top, 10, 12 punter in the league, he's also your holder. And he's primarily your kickoff specialist. Rodrigo Blankenship has kicked off in the NFL and has done a decent job with it. But I do feel like the Colts, more often than not, with Sanchez over the last handful of years, they've controlled field position in a game. And you don't lead off Monday mornings with that, but there is some hidden yardage with that. And obviously the nature of how he got hurt yesterday adds to what the hell? I mean, this is the Colts. That sort of feeling of they were out there running sprints to end practice. That's the third time they've done that at Grand Park. One time they did it just the offense because they lost a 2-point conversion drill to end practice. The other 2 times have been full team. And they're running sprints, and I've mentioned this before at Grand Park. I felt like I have seen more early in camp. I've seen a lot of guys slip and fall. Like Matt Ryan, I remember him running sprints last week or 2 weeks ago, and Matt Ryan just totally ate it. And
really
came over and, was like, boy, that was awkward. So the Drew Ogletree non-contact torn ACL last week, I thought to myself, I'm a little surprised it took 12 days before someone went down and they were hurt.
But they practice at the facility on West 56. They're practicing on natural grass outdoor more often than not, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I need my Purdue agronomy degree.
Well, but I'm saying it's not like they're on an
Correct.
the outdoor.
Yeah.
Some places have an outdoor sports turf. Even, I mean, they have actual grass.
Yeah, this is grass in Westfield. This is grass at West 56.
Right.
Obviously, if they want turf at West 56, they go to their indoor facility if they're getting ready to play a game there on Sundays. And yeah, he goes down, and next thing you know, he's carted off, and I'm talking to somebody from the Colts. I'm like, hey, any update? And crickets, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this is not ideal. So punter watch, holder watch, kickoff specialist watch. Again, not final yet, but anytime you see Achilles, I remember you and I doing one of our earlier shows, I believe it was you and I, the day after Julian Blackmon injured his Achilles at practice, and sure enough, the next morning, confirmed torn ACL, or excuse me, torn Achilles on that front.
Man, Achilles is, that's a tough one, though.
And I'm curious, too, and I don't know, Jake, I'm not going to, I guess I am going to try and put on a punting, kicking hat here, but would you rather have it be on your plant leg or your kicking leg?
Well, I was just going to ask, do you know which one it is? I would think, okay, dumb question. Does the punting motion, does your foot stay in a stationary angle, or do you move the foot at all? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Say that again.
When you drop back and you get a punt, and you're getting ready, let's say you're right-footed, does your foot stay straight the entire time, and it's actually your lower leg that you're kicking the ball with, or do you snap your foot as part of the punt?
Boy, snap is probably not the word.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. There is probably a snap, a
movement, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that would. An Achilles typically is like a 10-month injury, right? At minimum.
For sure. How I boil it down to is this. I don't think when we give out our win-loss season prediction here in the coming weeks, Jake, I don't think I'm all of a sudden going to say, well, nope, 13 wins becomes 10 wins because they don't have Rigoberto Sanchez. But I also can sit here and acknowledge he's a guy that's done his job very well. And if you want to break it down, he probably gives you, I'd say he gives you a first down advantage each quarter.
Yeah, he can be.
Like he helps pin a punt in the.
And he's had a good preseason.
He helps pin a punt at the 7-yard line, whereas maybe an average punter, that punt becomes a 17-yard line punt. Or on kickoffs, the Colts have elected not to just boom touchbacks with kickoffs. A big reason why is because they want to kind of have Rigo kick it down to the 2-yard line and then trust their coverage unit to make a tackle before the 25. Now, their coverage unit is another question because they've lost a lot of core special teamers, so that probably adds to it, too. So, yeah, just awful.
Good morning to you, by the way. That is Kevin Bowen. I'm Jake Query. Mark Dykton used to work here, but he's been replaced by Elijah, the intern, who sits in on his final day here. This is Kevin and Query on 93.5, 107.5. The Fan. Lot to talk about this morning. We'll continue talking about not only this situation with Rigoberto Sanchez and the Colts as they get set, and it is hard to believe that they're wrapping up camp, but that's the reality of it. Stephen Holder, they're looking for a holder. There you go.
Now, didn't Nyheim Hines hold? Remember last year during that Ravens game when Hot Rod forgot to come on the field to do the field goal, and Rigoberto was the field goal kicker? Do you remember that?
I do recall that.
Rodrigo Blankenship gets hurt in warm-ups trying to impersonate Justin Tucker, and all of a sudden there's a chaotic moment late first half, and Hines is the holder, Sanchez is the place kicker. And then all of a sudden, the Ravens go off sides, so that gives the Colts a chance to, have a timeout and handle their calm things down. And Hot Rod comes out and makes the field goal.
Dustin Dopirak, is it Dopirak or Dopirak?
I thought it was always Dopirak, yeah.
Dopirak. That's just one of those. His last name to me is like algebra. Dustin going to join us, talk a little college sports at 8:30. I did finish last night the Manti T'eo documentary.
Okay.
And here's what I came up with. So Manti T'eo, obviously, everybody knows this by now. Is it Renaya? Is that how you say it?
I believe so.
Renaya Tuiasosopo was this was known before you watched the documentary, so I'm not giving anything away on the documentary here, but Renaya Tuiasosopo, who also was from a football family, had cousins that had played in the NFL. There were a couple of them that played at Washington, I think.
And played high school football, was a quarterback himself.
And did he know Manti T'eo? I can't remember in high school.
I think kind of just distantly.
Okay. So he was the one posing not only in voice, but also in sent images as Linnea Kukua, or however you say the fictional girlfriend's name. One of the things that the documentary explained, because the question from so many people is, about, how in the world could someone fall for this? How could someone be so naive? I think they touch upon, but don't necessarily get completely into, I didn't think, at least to the depth they could, how Manti T'eo's upbringing contributed to his naivete and just being as gullible as he was about it all. Although it was elaborate, and they certainly showed you just how elaborate the scheme was, and how when he started to become skeptical, there was always an answer. So they did do a good job with that.
I would say elaborate is not giving him enough of a compliment in the execution of it.
No, correct. I mean, it was very detailed. But I think what could almost be another documentary, quite truthfully, is in the Polynesian culture, which I think is a fascinating and, quite frankly, in many ways, almost an enviable culture because of the discipline amongst the people, the family unit, the bond that they have of community. And it explains that with Manti T'eo, just kind of he felt safe with this because this was a member of the Polynesian community, and a Polynesian person wouldn't burn you, that kind of thing. But Manti T'eo had it all. He was a football star that represented Hawaii, that was of strong faith, that had a good family, and went to Notre Dame and became a star immediately. And just by walking out of the house every day was beloved. Renaya Tuiasosopo was someone who was battling internally his own identity, his own sexuality, and he felt like, culturally speaking, he was being forced to be someone other than what he truly was, and was being forced to live a lie. And so I think that subconsciously and subliminally, and maybe Renaya Tuiasosopo doesn't even realize as it's happening that this is taking place, but he took the ultimate beloved figure of his culture, because he was internally struggling with not being able to be who he was, and forced that person into, without their knowledge, having to live a lie, which is exactly what he had to do every day. And so I think it was a fascinating examination of one's internal rebellion against what they believe people were forcing them to live versus how they wanted to live.
Yeah, Maddie found herself having some empathy a bit for Renaya, but also being like, that was so sick how...
I think both can be true, yes.
The levels to which...
Correct. I think both can be true.
He went with it. I think the enviable nature that you bring up with the Polynesian culture is very interesting. If I'm not mistaken, Brian T'eo, Manti's father, at one point says, I wasn't that skeptical about the relationship because she was Polynesian.
Correct.
And I again, hypothetical, I mean, we're talking about a fake girlfriend here, but I almost think to myself, if Lene would not have looked how she looked, Polynesian, then maybe Manti is not, one, immediately attracted to her, or two, continuing to
trusting.
think, yeah,
right.
trusting.
Totally.
continuing to think that this is real.
I thought his dad also, there was a line in it where his dad, and it was very subtle. It was not, it was almost like they just kind of glanced over it. But where his dad says, look, Manti embarrassed us. Mm-hmm. He was an embarrassment to the family and the culture.
That was tough to hear.
And I'm like, whoa, dude.
Mm-hmm. That was really tough to hear.
His father did lose a lot of weight. The videos of his father when Manti was playing and the videos of Manti.
Large dude.
Yeah.
I'm imagining him on those benches at Notre Dame Stadium, very close quarters in those benches there in the stadium. I don't know if that would have gone over too well with people sitting around.
They
him.
did show, by the way, and this shows how quickly things can change, just in terms of like hero 1 minute and then you're forgotten kind of the next. They showed the 2012 Heisman Trophy award ceremony. Manti T'eo, of course, there wearing the leis and everything else, and Johnny Manziel. There was a third player there.
Oh, yeah.
You know who it was?
Yep. Colin Klein.
Colin Klein of Kansas State.
So Notre Dame needed help.
A shiny penny if you can tell me where Colin Klein took his next snaps.
Oh, gosh. That's a great question. Let's go with the Saskatchewan Tigers. Or is it the Hamilton Tiger Cats?
I don't know that he played anywhere. I'm looking right now. Okay, he was asked to work out with the tight ends at the NFL Scouting Combine.
Can you imagine you're a Heisman finalist and they tell you to go to a different position at the Combine? Just a month later.
He went to the rookie mini camp as a rookie tryout with the Houston Texans, but was not offered a contract. He signed a 2-year deal with the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian League in 2014, but was released shortly thereafter.
Hey, I was somewhat close.
I mean,
so Notre Dame late in that season, I forget who Kansas State was playing in the final week, maybe Oklahoma. They needed like some help to get to the national title game, and Colin Klein in Kansas State won a huge game for them. Maybe it was the week before the final week of the regular season. To get in to the national championship game. The other thing I thought was interesting, Jake, and I said this to you off air, I don't think Manti T'eo would have been a great NFL player had none of this transpired, but his very candid comments about when he walked in between the lines moving forward and how he felt about the game of football pre-scandal versus post-scandal, I thought was really enlightening.
Derailed him.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, and I'm paraphrasing here, but, you know, I felt like that was my domain and, you know, kind of king of the jungle almost when I walked in between the lines. And then all of a sudden, starting with the national championship game and then into his NFL career. I mean, yes, he started what? How many games do you think he started? Probably 40 games in the NFL? Something like that?
I looked it up. He played 5 years. He made just over $10 million.
Do you remember him at all in the NFL?
No. I mean, I know that.
Same. 48 career starts.
I think you made, in our meeting yesterday, you know, you made a good, you know, he was Freddie Keaho, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just.
Poor man's Pat Anger.
Just a guy, you know, and that's fine. Just a guy.
Yeah, I encourage anybody that hasn't checked that out yet to do so.
How about Joey Chestnut, by the way?
How about Joey?
He did it.
It was 32, right?
32 boxes of popcorn in under 8 minutes.
The video is just, man, something you want to show your kids. Now,
you know,
that video is a little different than the Yankees hot dog.
You know what I didn't think about? And I wonder, I mean, Joey Chestnut, I'm sure, obviously, he would have to have, I'm sure he's pretty, his doctor probably regularly is, you know, I mean.
Daily.
Correct. Not to be graphic, do you know what diverticulitis is?
I've heard it, but enlighten me.
When Mark Dykton used to work here, I would ask him, and he could get on the microphone and then say what the theme of the show is. But our goal of the show, Elijah, do you know? We have two things that we plan to do on this show.
Educate and entertain.
Yeah, see.
Or did I get that backwards, or is it entertain and educate?
You know what?
Interchangeable?
It doesn't matter, and your name starts with an E, so you even fit better than Mark with this. Entertain and educate, or educate and entertain is correct. So here's the entertaining aspect of it. And I'm not trying to be graphic, but...
Well, it's fun. I asked Joey Chestnut how many times he relieves himself.
You did. So, diverticulosis is the condition in which the lining of one's intestinal walls can have small pockets. It is possible that everyone has this, but you don't know it because you wouldn't know it unless it gets infected. You wouldn't know that you have that unless you go in looking for it. But to have that is called diverticulosis. Diverticulitis is the process by which food that the body doesn't naturally break down and turn into energy or whatever else gets stuck in said web and then gets infected because it just sits there. Things like some seeds, kernels of corn, and popcorn kernels are a huge culprit of this.
You need to get out of algebra and get into this.
I know. Well, I've had diverticulitis 3 times. It is horribly painful, and if you've ever had diverticulitis, the very first bout of it, you have no idea what it is. You're like, what in the world? It's very uncomfortable. So I worry for Joey Chestnut, quite frankly, with the amount of popcorn kernels that he just took in. If he has diverticulosis, he is absolutely going to get diverticulitis here. No question. I mean, I don't know how with that the law of averages. I mean, if you have diverticulosis, you're not supposed to eat popcorn. I eat it all the time, but not to that level. Not, you know what I mean?
32 boxes in 8 minutes. That was the happy news on the Diamond last night. The sad news was in Williamsport. You see our Hagerstown Tigers.
Yeah, that was rough. Now, were they? I did not see the game. I only saw the score. Were they mercy ruled?
They were mercy ruled by the 4th inning.
Were they really?
Name the Colts player who was very happy about that result, meaning he hails from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
There is a Colt player from Hollidaysburg?
A current Colt from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. He has relevance to what we've chatted about here in the first 21 minutes of the show.
You know what? Why don't you tell me that as an incorporated factoid on the morning checkdown?
That is another professional tease by Jake Query right there. Shaquille Leonard's injury situation. Asked Frank Reich about that yesterday. I found his quote to be interesting. I know Stephen Holder did as well. We'll chat more about that in the 8 o'clock hour. I do want to play that right clip with Leonard. Less than 3 weeks from the season opening, we have still yet to see Shaquille Leonard on the practice field. We did see a rookie get his first starting reps of training camp yesterday. We can chat about that as well. It's Kevin Bowen, it's Jake Query, it's Elijah the intern. His father sent me a Facebook message, by the way, the other day. Jake, I know you've I would say crept on Elijah's girlfriend.
First my girlfriend, and now my dad. What is going on? What are you people doing?
To be fair, he initiated the conversation. I think with Jake and your girlfriend, it was the other way. I really enjoyed conversing with Dean, I believe.
Yes, his name is Dean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice guy. So enjoyed that conversation with him. As Jake said, looks like a beautiful Wednesday
wouldn't the dad
morning.
Reach out to me? Why does no one reach out to me
here in Indianapolis? Kevin and Query on potentially his future daughter-in-law. You just decided to Facebook request.
Good point.
Beautiful Wednesday here. Colts back to practice at noon today, Grand Park. We'll talk more about it coming up next here. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Michael Pittman Jr., the Colts, joins us. So how will we see Nyheim Hines used? More running back or wide receiver this year, Michael?
I expect him to be more of a wideout than he is a back. I think that he's one of our guys now. Man, he's so fast, shifty, mismatch everywhere. I mean, like, he is going to win. Move him around.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 till 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
LP SmartSide Trim and Siding helps you efficiently install more siding in less time. Side with LP SmartSide Trim and Siding. Visit lpcorp.com/pro to learn more.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, today, Wednesday, August 24th, we're running an unprecedented one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. Even Cambridge has studied our technology. If you're ready to transform your love life, grab your phone. Today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that, guys. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is our most lucrative offer ever, worth $1,200, but call today, Wednesday, and qualify totally free. 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 317-552-1111.
My name is Megan Davis, and I am the Director of Training and Communications here at the Humane Society for Hamilton County. We nominated Trudy because he truly embodies our mission and message of whatever it takes.
And I'm Jiffy Lube owner Jennifer Sanner. At Jiffy Lube, we are rewarding Hoosier volunteers who use their vehicle to do more to make Indiana a better place to live.
I think what the most important thing to me is when we get dogs in that are so scared, I just love to take these dogs under my wing. I need my vehicle to be in top shape because I'm driving here 6 days a week.
Each month, Jiffy Lube of Indiana provides a volunteer free vehicle maintenance for a year, whether it's someone who delivers smiles and supplies or drives somewhere to serve on site. Jiffy Lube supports local givers who count on their car to do more for Indy, and we love to hear their stories.
If you know a volunteer who impacts your community, nominate them today to receive a year's worth of free vehicle maintenance. Just click the Do More tab at jiffylubeindiana.com.
Here's what's happening with The Fan.
Check out our contest page at 1075thefan.com weekly and enter to win prizes, tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. Tune in for Friday Night Lights football. This week, Carmel travels to Center Grove. Brendan King with the call. Catch JMV at Friendly's Tavern in Zionsville this Thursday, August 25th from 3 to 6 for the 2022 Evan Williams Tavern Tour. Stop by for your chance to win a $50 gift card and pick up a Tavern Tour t-shirt.
For more info, click on 1075thefan.com.
Hey, Wings Etc. fans, guess what? It's Wings Schooner Madness time. Come get slam dunk dine-in only discounts on big, ice-cold domestic schooners, award-winning jumbo wings, and crispy boneless wings.
You heard him right, Wings Etc. fans. From now through August 31st, Wings Etc.'s award-winning traditional and boneless wings are just 79 cents, and our domestic schooners are just $5.50.
The beer is cold, the deals are hot, the TVs are tuned. Every play that'd make a season ticket holder jealous.
Now through August 31st, traditional and boneless wings are just 79 cents, and domestic schooners are just $5.50.
Now's not the time to drop the ball on this limited time pricing, because Wings Schooner Madness is only for limited time and only at Wings Etc.
Dine-in only. Pricing and participation vary by location. See store for details. Wings Etc. in Avon, Canby, Connorsville, Franklin, Greenfield, Marion, Martinsville, Muncie, Noblesville, Peru, Plainfield, Shelbyville, and in Indianapolis on Shadeland and at Emerson and East Thompson Road.
Hubler has all the top brands: Chevy, Buick, GMC, Ford, Acura, Honda, Mazda, Nissan, and more. And every new vehicle includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Looking to sell your vehicle? We'll pay you top dollar, even if you don't buy ours. Take it from Brooke Hubler.
You can get a car anywhere, but you can only get a warranty like this at Hubler. 10 years, 200,000 miles.
Visit drivehubler.com.
Hubler has it all.
Warranty available on new vehicles except certain models, not transferable or available on leases. A copy of the warranty is available for review at the dealership.
There's more at Four Winds Casino South Bend. More games, more winning, more fun. The expanded gaming floor at Four Winds Casino South Bend is now open. 27 table games, 1,900 of the hottest slots, 16 live poker tables, and endless winning possibilities. And coming early 2023, Four Winds South Bend Hotel. Find your game at Four Winds Casino South Bend, your entertainment escape.
The Morning Checkdown. Brought to you by QC Kinetics. Relieving your joint pain at QCkinetics.com. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We begin the Morning Checkdown with sad news this morning coming out of Kansas City. 87-year-old Len Dawson, the former Purdue quarterback, of course, he led the nation in passing efficiency as a sophomore for the Boilermakers back in 1954, part of the cradle of quarterbacks. Dawson went on, of course, to win Super Bowl V. He was the NFL Man of the Year in 1973 before a very colorful media career as well, a beloved figure in Kansas City. Len Dawson passing away this morning, or at least it was announced, the news coming this morning about an hour ago at the age of 87.
And you just tweeted out one of the more iconic photos, I feel like, in NFL history of Len Dawson. Moving on to yesterday, unfortunately, the Hagerstown Little League run, kind of a Cinderella Little League run, comes to an end. They look like a team pretty dejected with how Monday ended and nearly having a walk-off. They get 10-run ruled by Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania in 4 innings. Jake, you did a beautiful job teasing it leading into the break. As I said, the Colts player that hails from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania is who?
I honestly have zero clue. Let me ask you this. Did this person stay close to home for college?
Let me double check that. I don't think too close. Yeah, I guess fairly close. Not in that state, but I would assume within driving distance.
Mike Strong.
Ooh, that's a good guess. In terms of proximity to college. No, I'll try to go with the hint I gave you in the first segment a little bit more. We focused heavily on someone affiliated with this player in the opening segment.
Well, that would be, we talked a lot about Rigoberto Sanchez, right? But he's on Rigoberto Sanchez is kind of on his own island.
Who is on that island with him at times?
Rodrigo Blankenship?
Pro Bowl long snapper Luke Rhodes.
Nice.
Hailing from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. His collegiate path was William and Mary.
Huh, okay. William and Mary, by the way, same school that produced former Colts starting secondary safety David Caldwell.
You love Caldwell.
I do, because in hindsight, well, first off, he was a good dude. I got to know. I told you the story about Caldwell and the rental cars in the Washington, D.C. airport the night before that season began. He and I were stuck in D.C. in the airport together, and he ended up renting a smart car and driving back to make it back in time for the first practice. But in hindsight, I look at it and I'm like, the only reason that guy started 16 games is because the Colts were tanking, right?
That was 2011, right?
Yes.
2-14.
Yes.
Major League Baseball yesterday, Aaron Judge hits another one. That's 48 on the year for him. The Cardinals' 8-game win streak comes to an end, but then they win Game 2 over the Cubs, 13-3. The Reds take the lead in the top of the ninth and lose it in the bottom of the ninth. They are horrific. They lose the Phillies 7-6. And Joey Chestnut did him.
What's that?
He did him.
It's like he did him. What? He did him some good? What? Like,
how many food world records do you think he has?
It didn't tell us it's like 16. Popcorn's got to be the most painful of all of them, though.
I don't know. He's got some that are like, wait, you can digest that?
Well, popcorn would be in that category. By the way, the LA Angels are for sale. Do you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the Rally Monkey can. Does that include the Rally Monkey?
Should we all ship in?
Colts have their second to last practice from Grand Park today. That is a noon start time there. We'll be up there tomorrow. 10 a.m. is the final practice from camp tomorrow. And looking ahead to Saturday night, that is the preseason finale. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Obviously, we'll have coverage that starts at 4:30. For those watching the game, you've been used to Fox 59 here in the preseason. It slides over to CBS on Saturday night. I believe Fox has Major League Baseball. Is that a weekly thing, Saturday nights?
Really?
Shows you how much I watch baseball.
By the way, Kevin Durant, I just would like to let everybody know on DraftKings, because I'm a genius, when Kevin Durant announced his trade demands, you could go on to DraftKings, and I'm sure most of the apps, but certainly on DraftKings. By the way, if you use the code 1075FAN, you can get up to $200 in free bets of college football with just a $5 bet for new users. But DraftKings, I put down like $3, I think, for the next team of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's next game played will be for what franchise? Would you like to guess what team Jake Query put his money on?
After the Nets, are you saying he'll play for the Nets this fall?
The question simply was on DraftKings, for what team will Kevin Durant play his next NBA game? This was at the end of last season. And you could put your money down on a team and lock it in.
You put down the Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay. You ready for professional tease number 2? We got a lot of Colts to talk about, but I'll tell you that
isn't he going to play
for
the Nets, though?
He rescinded. They had They sat down and had a meeting, and kumbaya, everybody gets along. So then I looked, I thought, oh, wait a minute. I remember putting money on this, but I can't remember who I put it on. So I had to look it up yesterday because it's still listed as an open bet.
We'll do that next. Updates on Shaquille Leonard. And again, where do the Colts turn now if Rigoberto Sanchez is done for the year? We'll chat more about that next year. Kevin and Corey on a Wednesday.
The Colts close out the preseason by hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coverage Saturday at 4:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You know, unfortunately, injuries kind of define today's show with the Colts. You haven't done that in a while, but if you're dealing with joint pain yourself, you contact QC Kinetics. We're talking about any joint pain. You need to call them today. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, giving lasting relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. If you've got pain in your knees, your hips, your back, shoulder, don't let them keep you on steroids, and don't let them tell you that surgery is your only option. You call QC Kinetics and you get help right away. They have one clinic last year, but the demand has been so strong. They now have clinics in Eagle Creek and Greenwood, and more is on the way. So many people are living their best life again, pain-free, thanks to QC Kinetics. So give them a call right now and get a free consultation. It's 463-235-7160. Again, locations over on the west side in Eagle Creek and the south side in Greenwood. Give QC Kinetics a call today, 463-235-7160.
At Payless Liquors, Charlie says sell it, and that includes great wines like Prisoner's Red Blend, just $42.99 a bottle. Kendall Jackson Bender's Reserve Chardonnay's $9.99 a bottle, and Yellowtail is only $8.99 for the 1.5 liter. Plus, it's just a quick in and out at all 26 Payless locations for $17.92 small batch. The 750s are only $29.99. Miller High Life 12-pack bottles, $7.99, and variety 10 packs of 99 brand liquors are only $8.99, and that's at Payless Liquors, where you don't pay more, you get more, and you pay less.
Dear driver, thank you. Thank you for slowing down when you saw the orange cones and road construction signs. My husband is one of those road workers. And today, you saved his life. If you hadn't slowed down, you would have missed that lane change, driven right into the work zone, and you would have killed him. Because you were driving differently. He'll be at our son's Little League game this weekend. He'll be there to walk our daughter down the aisle. He'll be out there tomorrow, making Indiana's roads safer. Thank you.
When driving in a construction zone, be smart, be alert, be in the zone.
This is Joe Bulk, business manager of Labor's Local 204. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Indiana's District Council of Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
At Shane Company, we'll help you find the perfect engagement ring. Our jewelry consultants are experts and can teach you everything you need to know about creating a beautiful ring. When you're collaborating, there's no pressure. They don't work on commission, so they'll spend as much time with you as you need. Before you come in, you can play around with our online tool Budget Buddy so you can see all the possibilities in your price range. When you're here, they'll show you so many gorgeous ring settings and all the options for the center stone. Go traditional with a beautiful diamond or make it really unique with a colorful gemstone. At Chain Company, we have stunning red rubies and over a dozen colors of sapphires, including 3 shades of blue, from light blue to a more traditional darker blue. Or maybe you'd love an aquamarine or peach morganite. Whatever you choose, your ring will be one of a kind, an expression of your love. So come on into Shane Company and let's bring that dream ring to life.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
The ultimate end of summer party is coming. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022, September 3rd and 4th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Featuring great music, great food and lifestyle with performances by Daryl Hall and John Oates, Cage the Elephant, John Fogerty, Portugal the Man, plus Lucinda Williams, Trampled by Turtles, The Four Tops, and many more. Multiple stages, multiple days. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022. Get details and tickets now at allinfestival.com.
4 days only, the Tom Wood 96th Street Used Car Super Sale with vehicles available from multiple dealerships starting at $99 a month. Cash cars from $995. Bank reps on site for immediate approval. Fords, Nissans, Volkswagens, Subarus, Hondas, Chevys, Jeeps, Toyotas. Over 500 available. Most with lifetime powertrain coverage. Only at the 96th Street Super Sale at Tom Wood Volkswagen on 96th Street, Wednesday through Saturday.
Limited inventory of 995 vehicles, including stock number V24192B and $99 payment vehicles, including stock number MH12447A. Offers available with approved credit, tax, title, registration, and $199 doc fee extra. Subject to availability.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
21 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock on a really good-looking Wednesday. Good morning to you. We will be at Colts camp 24 hours from right now. As a matter of fact, we'll be there technically 23 hours from right now, or 25 hours from right now. Whatever it is. Yeah, 25. Jay Query, Kevin Bowen here. Elijah, what's your last name?
My last name is Elijah Well, my last name is Robertson, not Elijah Robertson. But you get the point.
Elijah Wood running the board for us. Mark Dykton apparently is now getting a salad. Kevin, I had put down the next team that Kevin Durant will play for at the time that he demanded a trade. I put my money down on the Brooklyn Nets.
Boom. What are we buying?
You owe me a cookie.
Huh?
Well, apparently you owe me a cookie. Somebody on Twitter said, do you know what today is the anniversary of? And it said, I will give you a cookie if you are correct in your answer. And I replied and said, yeah, it's my girlfriend's parents' wedding anniversary. I'll take chocolate chip. And they said, okay, well, we'll have Kevin buy it for you. So apparently you inherited the responsibility of buying me a cookie.
Glad I accepted that deal.
That's right.
Congrats to Shannon's parents on that's got to be a big anniversary, right?
59 years of marriage, 70 years together because they grew up across the street from one another and were like middle school sweethearts.
Wow. That is a hell of a run. Congrats to them on that.
You, by the way, had mentioned that you kind of got an eyebrow raise out of Frank Reich yesterday when discussing Shaquille Leonard, or rather inquiring about the health status and availability perhaps of Shaquille Leonard, correct?
Yeah, we'll have Stephen Holder on in less than 20 minutes, Jake, and I thought he asked a question to Reich about Leonard last week that kind of gave me a little bit of pause. And basically, you guys know full well what I've said about Leonard throughout this process. I think it's a very weird and murky injury situation. It's lingered really long. It's an ankle calf injury that's needed back surgery with, 2 discs on nerves, and it just happened in June, and now you're expecting him, or you're hoping, I should say, that he's ready for week 1. At times last year, he looked incredible as a player, and at other times he looked like, you or I playing linebacker. And so all of this has just been, I think, very complicated and weird. And now, as we sit here on August 24th, time is ticking. Today you practice. Tomorrow is a very light final day at Grand Park. And then you have 2 weeks of practice time until you know what gets real in Houston on September 11th for week 1. So I asked Frank yesterday about would you or have you considered putting Shaquille Leonard on the physically unable to perform list to start the year. And before we play the clip, yesterday was the first day that teams could put guys on the PUP list. Basically, you saw Chase Young go on it. Remember, Chase Young tore his ACL last season. Jamison Williams, who tore his ACL in the national championship game, he will stay on that list to start the year. And what that means is you miss at least 4 games to start the season. I never thought we were there with Leonard, but I just wanted Frank Reich to kind of clarify that to try and get an idea of exactly where he's at timetable-wise. So here was Frank Reich yesterday on if it's a possibility that Shaquille Leonard would stay on the PUP list to start the season.
Chris and I have not had that exact conversation yet. Based on the fact that he's really not out here yet, I guess you'd have to say that that's a possibility, but I'm not assuming that that's the case. In fact, I really, from our standpoint, we really want to, get him back out there. Hey, when he's cleared, but even if he's not ready to play, get him out there. So, and you can't get out there if you're on PUP. You can't participate in anything. So we want to get Darius participating. So at some point even if he's not ready to play, we got to get him off PUP and get him taking reps, even if it takes however many weeks it's going to take to get him ready.
That seemed very circular to me. Two key phrases being at some point.
Yeah.
And if I were a conspiracy theorist talk show host, which at times I've been accused of being, I'm happy to say not all the time, but I am somewhat at times of probably too much a critical thinker.
I think you pose good questions.
Well, thank you. In that scenario, I would say that there is a hint. I don't think this is the case, but if this were high school debate class and someone said, Jake, in this debate, it is your responsibility to show that there are areas of disagreement between Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, I would play that audio as support or evidence that they are not always on the same page on things.
Oh, okay. So you're going there. I wasn't going there.
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying you could read it that way to an extent.
Yeah, I look at this Leonard situation right now, and basically what I take away from the right clip is, as he mentions, when Shaquille Leonard is on the physically unable to perform list, which he is right now, you can't practice. And I don't expect him to practice today. I'd be surprised if he was out there today. I'd be surprised if he was out there tomorrow. So that means you're going to get to next week, and you will have 2 weeks to go until the regular season opens. If you listen to that clip, it sounds like they are going to bring him off the PUP list at some point, and there's going to be a ramp-up period of just practice time. Like, it's not like Leonard's going to come off PUP on a Thursday, Jake, and then he plays that Sunday. Like, there is going to be a ramp-up period for him to practice before he plays in a game. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense. He hasn't been on the practice field since January. So I understand that, and I guess I keep on coming back to the question that everybody wants to know is, when will Shaquille Leonard play in a game? And if I were a betting man right now, I don't necessarily feel great about this, but it's a somewhat educated guess. Week 3, Kansas City? Is that his debut?
That seems pretty early.
So then would you keep him on PUP, or would you take him off PUP to practice a little bit? Right now, they could probably afford to bring him off PUP because they're not in a dire injury situation need.
But do we have any idea what his level of his range, mobility, or comfort level is?
So he's at practice every day. I literally saw him jogging out to the practice field yesterday. If you were to watch him do that, you would think to yourself, man, Leonard looks pretty close. Now, he's done that for 4 weeks now. He jogs out seemingly to practice every single day. I see him out there. It's not like he's wearing anything that indicates there's an injury there. Jim Irsay, several times this offseason, has really stressed that we have to get Leonard all the way healthy. I think Ballard at times has stressed how long of a season it is, and you don't want to play around with, he's 80% this week, he's 60% that week, maybe he's 100% this week. They want to try and get to a point where if he doesn't play until late September, but yet they feel good about him playing at 95% all year long, they'd rather have that than kind of the on and off moments that they had last season.
Kevin, I go back to, this is unfair. I admit that it's unfair. And it's particularly unfair with Frank Reich and Chris Ballard, who I think more often than not are pretty transparent. Or more often than not, transparent is probably the wrong word. But more often than not, you look back in retrospect and go, you know what? They pretty much told us that, and we were too busy crunching their words, looking around the corner to just take at face value what they were saying. At least I have been that way. So I admit that. But I still have a PTSD scarring from years of Colts brass being complete bold-faced liars about the health status or availability of players. It has nothing to do with the people that are currently on West 56th Street. But I just have become a skeptic of it and a cynic about health conversations because of years of hearing like, well, if this was must win, they'd be out there. How is it not a must win? Every game's a must win, right? But so I just get a little bit, I always overanalyze when it comes to talking about player health. And this to me feels like one of them that in early October, we're still going to be talking about it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting, Jake. When you think back to the Andrew Luck situation and now the Shaquille Leonard situation, I'm a bit torn. Are there times where I feel like the Colts have misled or not been totally forthcoming? Sure. But I also think to myself, and this might be scarier, honestly, do they just not know? Do they not have it properly diagnosed? Possible. And some of that is just the human body is really complicated, and these guys are playing a high level of professional sports. And obviously, Luck and Leonard have say in their own bodies. And that probably complicates some things, too. It should be noted, I guess, that Shaquille Leonard is taking his social media notes for any of those out there. I was checking my phone last night, and I saw that Shaquille Leonard liked 3 tweets that I was tagged in. So I decided to look at these tweets. Andrew responding to me. Yeah, he'll be back in week 9. Seen this before, KB. Shaquille Leonard like. Chad, seen this bleep before. See you next season. Shaquille Leonard with a like on that one. And then last one from BG. Sounds like luck. Shaquille Leonard with a like on that one.
Now, is that just because he knows he's coming back in October or September and he's like, I want to be able to fuel myself with the doubters. I want to remember who the doubters are.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. You can't hide from Shaquille Leonard. He'll find you. He tweeted at me during the preseason opener. Hey, man, it's a preseason. Chill. Think to myself, if Bobby Okereke just returned a touchdown for a pick 6, you'd be celebrating it.
Right.
It's just like, come on. But I Peter King mentioned that he had lunch with Frank Reich last week and that Reich pretty much told him Leonard's going to have to play at 90 to 95% this year.
Okay. I'm going to make a statement here at 7:51 in the morning on August 24th that is probably going to, people are either going to hate me for it or people are going to go, he's not entirely off base. I don't know. But aside from the ability to create takeaways, which is kind of like saying aside from the 0 to 60 speed of a Ferrari, I mean, that is a huge part of his game. And it is a critical piece for the Colts, and I get that. But I also wonder how much of that was like he was kind of in a zone and that's not necessarily the norm year in and year out for Shaquille Leonard. I think he's really good in that locker room. I mean, I'm not around it all the time. I think clearly people look at him, his teammates do, in a very positive way. I have nothing bad to say about the guy as a guy. However, I think as time has gone on, he's become an overrated player. And I think he's really good. But I think that in terms of his production of making tackles and facilitating at his position, I don't know that the drop-off from Shaquille Leonard to, say, Bobby Okereke is as significant or as steep as people think it is.
Yeah, but I think the turnovers just trump so much.
It's hard to argue that. It's hard to argue that. But I just...
And he's done it at a Hall of Fame level. And I know that sounds
Is that the norm for him, though?
Hyperbole?
I guess it is because he's done it, but I just...
If you look at his career, Jake, he might have had a quiet season 2 years ago, but it seems to be year in, year out.
I feel like a lot of the plays that he gets is because their defensive schemes were facilitated towards bottling things towards him. Now, the turnovers, no question. Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
His interception numbers in 4 seasons, 2.504. Again, he had kind of a quieter 2020 season. His forced fumble numbers, 4.238. 8 forced fumbles last season.
That's huge, no doubt.
Led the NFL. fumble recoveries, 2.023. I mean, from a consistency standpoint, the takeaways have been there.
And that's not sour grapes.
Basis.
I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm like, if he doesn't, what I'm saying, I'm not saying that in the form of if he can't play, of like, well, who cares, man? He sucks anyway. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think it is a loss, but I don't know that it is as significant a cut to the gut as people think it might be if he's not available.
Yeah, I think, I forget. Mark, can you remember where you had Leonard on your indispensable? I feel like I had him like 4-ish. Did you not have him that high, Jake?
I think I had him, I can't remember. Where did I have him, 5 or 6?
So I've got the list still here.
It's good to know you're still here.
I know I am. Kevin had Darius Leonard at 3. I had him at number 5, and Jake had him as his number 1.
There's no way.
Well, I can pull the tape if you'd like.
I had Darius Leonard as my number 1 most indispensable player.
You had Danny Pinter, number 10,
right.
Rigoberto Sanchez, 9, Mo Alley Cox, Stephon Gilmore, Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, Michael Pittman Jr., Matt Pryor, DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard.
Okay, I don't know what my rationale there was.
So that list is going out the window.
No, I'm just saying, like, I think he's... I probably was going just in terms of his overall leadership, like I said. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, I don't think that he...
See, I think statistically, definitely, based off the turnovers. No one takes the ball away like he does. One thing to note before we get to Stephen Holder at 8 o'clock, if you're looking for optimism on the Rigoberto Sanchez thing, and again, we're still waiting confirmation on that, but Achilles injury yesterday... Rigoberto Sanchez has missed 2 games in his NFL career. Remember, he had that, just awful cancer scare situation that sidelined him for a couple weeks in the 2020 season. In those 2 games, the Colts scored an average of 35 points in those 2 games. They won 2 road games, and they won by a combined 23 points in those 2 games. Do I think Sanchez is a loss? Yes, but I also think it's one that you can overcome. Stephen Holder, next here on Kevin and Corey.
The Colts wind up their preseason against one of the top teams in the NFL. In the hands of Tom Brady. The legendary quarterback has 7 Super Bowl rings, a hot-smoking wife, and the shortest retirement since Favre. But you won't see him. Giselle has a honey-do list. The Colts take on Tampa Bay at Lucas Oil Stadium Saturday. Touchdown, Colts! Pre-game at 4:30. Matt Taylor with kickoff at 7:30 on your home for Colts football. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Visit Samsung.com now to pre-order the new Galaxy Z Flip 4 or Z Fold 4 and get a free storage upgrade in case. Valid through 8/25/2022. See terms and conditions that apply.
Stay summer travel road ready at your Central Indiana CarX locations. AC inspection $19.99, lifetime brake pads $109.99 per axle. It's CarX online for the location nearest you, CarX.com.
The 9th Annual Indy Labor Fest is September 3rd on Monument Circle. An admission-free street festival with live music, beer from Sun King Brewing, food trucks, a kids zone, and most importantly, a chance to learn about lifelong career opportunities. Hosted by the labor unions of Central Indiana.
I'm Aaron Weingard, President of International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Local 30. Come celebrate organized labor's dedication and contributions throughout the Hoosier State. More information at IndyLaborFest.org. Union membership, community leadership.
The ultimate end of summer party is coming. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022, September 3rd and 4th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Featuring great music, great food and lifestyle with performances by Daryl Hall and John Oates, Cage the Elephant, John Fogerty, Portugal the Man, plus Lucinda Williams, Trampled by Turtles, The Four Tops, and many more. Multiple stages, multiple days. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022. Get details and tickets now at allinfestival.com.
And now, a redneck chicken singing about wings, etc.
Well, if you're looking for a place to have an ice-cold beer and feed your face with the best dang jumbo chicken wings they are, then why not get your big old feathered butt up off the couch and haul it down to a restaurant called Wings, etc. Oh, Wings, etc. You'll like the way they fry and grill. Oh, Wings, etc. If you don't go, then who the hell will?
Wings Etc. is at it again. Now through August 31st, they're selling traditional and boneless wings for just 79 cents. Dine-in only, and our famous ice-cold domestic schooners are on sale too. 79-cent wings and our famous domestic schooner special now through August 31st. Only at Wings Etc.
Oh, Wings Etc. Gotta get some.
Gotta stop.
Chicken time. Wings Etc. Delicious sports bar food.
Wings Etc. in Avon, Canby, Connersville, Franklin, Greenfield, Marion, Martinsville, Muncie, Noblesville, Peru, Plainfield, Shelbyville, and in Indianapolis on Shadeland and at Emerson and East Thompson Road.
Denny Smith here for Sundown Gardens. Sundown has a large selection of container and balled and burlap trees in stock, and they're 30% off through September 4th. Now's a great time to plant before we get late into the fall season. Find that perfect shade tree you always wanted or a wonderful ornamental tree to finish off your landscape beds. Follow Sundown Gardens on Facebook and Instagram. Lots of fall fun's coming to Sundown Gardens in the next few months. Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, sundown.gardens.com.
4 days only, the Tom Wood 96th Street Used Car Super Sale with vehicles available from multiple dealerships starting at $99 a month. Cash cars from $995. Bank reps on site for immediate approval. Fords, Nissans, Volkswagens, Subarus, Hondas, Chevys, Jeeps, Toyotas. Over 500 available. Most with lifetime powertrain coverage. Only at the 96th Street Super Sale at Tom Wood Volkswagen on 96th Street, Wednesday through Saturday.
Limited inventory of 995 vehicles, including stock number V24192B and $99 payment vehicles, including stock number MH12447A. Offers available with approved credit, tax, title, registration, and $199 fee extra. Subject to availability.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
Join me today. We're going to talk Colts. Tom Brady, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Why was he gone for 11 days? What's going on in Tampa? We'll talk about that. Get you ready for the weekend.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Stephen Holder's tenure covering the Colts, he's seen a lot of weird injury situations, to say the least. Yesterday's with the punter getting hurt running sprints and potentially suffering a torn Achilles has got to be near the top of that. And again, like I said a few minutes ago, I think Steven's question to Frank Reich last week about Shaquille Leonard and then his answer to mine yesterday, it just, boy, this situation seems like it could linger into the month of September. Steven joins us now, again, from ESPN.com, Stephen Holder. I guess let's start with Rigoberto Sanchez, Stephen. If we assume this is a torn Achilles and he's done for the year, I mentioned this earlier. I don't think it changes my win total prediction for the Colts, but I also can sit here and acknowledge Rigoberto Sanchez probably made a first down difference each quarter. He probably saved you 10 yards in field position each quarter. And in a game that's defined by parity, that does matter, certainly.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree. I think it's a sneaky big loss for the Colts. And I think it's for the reason you just outlined. It's hitting yardage, and that's why people don't appreciate it maybe as much. I get it. It's not really something you can measure statistically. In fact, Sanchez, his punting statistics on the surface really are just pedestrian.
Yeah, he's not top five. Yeah.
No, he really isn't. And so I got pushback from people on Twitter, or a few people, based on how I described his importance to the team, and I said that I think he's one of the top punters in the league. I got pushback on that, like, well, his numbers aren't that good, and that's true. What you don't understand is you have to actually pay attention and really watch special teams, which no one really does. The fact of the matter is that Sanchez is an absolute elite directional kicker, and he is elite in terms of placing the football, and they really take advantage of that. The Colts don't care about distance. They're trying to work with field position. They're emphasizing field position. And so when you do that, sometimes your numbers take a hit. The point is, to your point, I do think there's a lot of hitting yardage that will be lost with losing Sanchez if, in fact, he is placed on injured reserve.
It's Stephen, I guess I'm going 1 for 2 because I made two statements recently on this show. One is when we made our list of 10 most indispensable Colts, I had Rigoberto Sanchez at number 10. And understandably, I get why. I mean, I was kind of mocked for it because, it's the punter. But my argument was, but he's a punter that, A, he's the only person on the roster that does what he does. He has no backup. And I get that they can find other punters out there, but I just think he does it at a level that's going to be hard to replace up the street. The other thing I said, which was just in the last 30 minutes, was, I understand the importance of Shaquille Leonard as a player, and I understand the dynamics of his turnovers, but if he is not able to go, I'm starting to increasingly think that the drop-off from him to the replacement of him is not near as steep as what we have been conditioned to believe. Am I totally off base on point number 2?
So here's what I'd say. I understand where you're going with that, and I actually think there is some. I
think a lot of his statistics are funneled towards him.
Well, for certain. Look, I would say this: that Matt Eberflus and in the system that Shaquille Leonard has played in for the previous 4 years, it featured his position. His position was featured and set up to make a lot of plays. That is very true. He'll also make a lot of plays in this system just based on the way the defensive line has a little less run responsibility. So he's going to have a lot more tackles that he can make. I mean, you think about Bobby Wagner in that Seattle system and the number of plays he made, right? So there are going to be plays for Shaquille to make here. I think where the drop-off in terms of the defense functioning at a functional level is probably not massive. Where there is a drop-off, I think, is in the sort of special plays that you get from Shaquille. And by that, I mean he just has that uncanny ability to turn people over.
No question about that.
And get turnovers. Right. So I think that is where there's just a special category of plays that he can make that others can't make. Zaire Franklin, Bobby Okereke, they can make a lot of plays, and they will make plays. They're smart players. I trust them to execute. I think there's just a different level of play that they can't make routinely that Leonard can. So that's where I think it's a little harder to measure.
Kenny, Stephen Holder from ESPN.com, and he's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Stephen, when you and I were talking in the media room yesterday, I think both of us kind of had the same reaction of man, these Frank Reich answers on Shaquille Leonard, they don't sound like week 1 in Houston, it's a slam dunk. If you really try to pin me down right now, all right, when does Shaquille Leonard make his regular season debut? I don't know with how much confidence I say it, but I'd probably say week 3 in Kansas or against Kansas City, which would be the home opener. I feel like I've changed my thought process. I thought week 1 was really real, and now some of the stuff I'm hearing and then seeing, I mean, he's yet to practice, and we're, about 2 weeks away from the regular season when you talk about practice time. Where are you at in a return date for Leonard in what, I fully acknowledge is a very murky situation?
I think that the 2 statements from Frank Reich that you just referenced earlier, I think they are telling on some level. And we have to read between the lines a little bit, so let's be clear about that. But I think Frank, although he is being indirect here, I think he's also answering the question if you really pay attention. And so I think yesterday, well, let's back up. Last week, I got the impression, okay, he's not that close. And that was the reaction that I had to his statement last week. Yesterday, his statement, which was that he's going to need time to practice before he gets out there and plays, and sounds like a significant level of practice. In order to do that, he has to be on the active roster. So I walked away from that thinking 2 things. Number one, they're not going to keep him on the PUP list. They'll activate him here in the next week or so. So, however, on the other end of that doesn't have anything to do with whether he plays week 1. And I am very, very strongly in the camp of believing he will not play in week 1 now. I'm very, very strongly on that side of that issue. And I mean, if we were taking bets on it, and I don't bet because I don't have the money, but I can't afford to be bad at it. But look, if we were taking bets, I'd bet that he doesn't play week 1. And I think Frank kind of strongly suggested that if you look at his statement, And he said, look, we need him to practice, and we need to see what he looks like and those kinds of things before he gets back into a game situation. Well, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to get out there and have 2 weeks of practice if he doesn't get back here in the next couple of days, and no one's anticipating that. So I don't know. We'll see. He could be out there today when we get to practice, and maybe all of this is moot. But they certainly aren't giving us any indication that he's that close. Because if he was, I think the Colts would say that, and we're not hearing that.
Yeah, I almost feel like, again, today's practice, tomorrow, and then I believe their next practice would be like, I don't know, next Monday or Tuesday. Roster cuts are Tuesday, so I kind of forget how they handle practice around roster cuts. But it almost seems like when they get back to West 56th Street, Steven, next week, it'll be less than 2 weeks from the opener. If he's not practicing on that Monday or Tuesday, if you go off of Frank Reich's answer yesterday, he needs at least a couple of weeks of practice to be ready for a game. If he's not out there next Monday or Tuesday, I almost cross off week 1.
I think I would feel much more strong in that prediction if he's not out there at that point. And again, we don't have any indication that he's that close. We're reading between the lines, and we're interpreting and all that, right? So that leaves a lot of room to be wrong. But all I'm saying is, I think there have been other players who have had these situations recently. We've talked about Dennis Kelly, the backup offensive lineman. We got some indication on where he's at recently. We're not getting that with Shaquille Leonard, and so that leads me to believe that there's still some boxes that he's got to check before he gets back out there.
Stephen, do you believe I want to bow tie the Shaquille Leonard conversation with this question for you. Do you believe that all parties within the building are on the same page in terms of his timeline?
I think so. Let's put it this way. I don't have any reason to believe that there's any disagreement. Let's put it that way. Now, what is possible is that, and I think the delicate nature and the complicated nature of this condition that Leonard's been dealing with, and I think we all understand it has been complicated, right, for quite some time. And that's okay. Medicine is hard. I get it. I think the complicated nature of it might be impacting why they're handling it in such a fashion, which is not giving any information, not being specific, because it's a complicated thing, right? And, he's having back surgery to relieve lower body pain, and none of it makes sense on the surface, right? For those of us who didn't go to medical school. So I understand on that level why they are being vague, why they are being noncommittal and all that, because it's just a complicated thing, and maybe they don't really have just really hard and fast answers. So I'm giving them a little benefit of the doubt on that based on the nature of the injury.
Stephen Holder, he's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Stephen's work now over at ESPN.com. Stephen, I had a question from a fan earlier this week that kind of got me thinking. Do you think this team, and I guess I'm assuming that T.Y. Hilton will not be on this team here in 2022, you think they'll miss Jack Doyle or T.Y. Hilton more?
That's a good question. I think they have learned to play without T.Y., just in the last couple of years, right? He's had some injuries. Certainly last year, they were counting on him a little heavier last year, or somewhat counting on him last year. And he has the neck injury in I guess right before the final preseason game. And so, what did he miss? 6, 7, 8 games, right? So they've learned to play without T.Y. I think that they've played a lot fewer games without Jack Doyle. He did have that injury, that hip injury. I forget if that was 2019 or 20. I don't recall. But that was a blow for them, and Mo Alley Cox was not at the level that he's at now at that time. So it was a really big loss at the time. And if I recall, I think that might be the only time in his career Jack went on injury reserve, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't miss a lot of games. And so the other part of this is that the underappreciated part of Jack Doyle, and all of what he did was underappreciated, frankly, but the underappreciated part is just how many of Jonathan Taylor's biggest runs were the product of a Jack Doyle block. You'd be surprised, right? Or some people might. There were just a ton of them, a ton. And that level of trust they had in him to go and take on a linebacker and throw the key block for Jonathan Taylor, their biggest offensive weapon, whether they have that level of trust in any of their tight ends currently on the roster, that remains to be seen. And I just think that could have a trickle-down effect. They're so dependent on Jonathan Taylor and his explosiveness that if you lose some of that, does that change the trajectory of the offense a little bit? I mean, look, Jonathan Taylor's going to have a big year, okay, if he's healthy, Jack Doyle or not. But let's just be clear. His big value, I think, is the explosiveness and the big plays. And a lot of those big plays, Jack Doyle was a huge part of them.
Stephen, tomorrow we will be out at Colts camp. That's because things are winding up in terms of their time in Westfield. So my question for you, Stephen Holder of ESPN, is this. Give me the player that, had we gone back in time right now to 3 weeks ago, you would be stunned if I told you that on our last day being out there that this guy was still in the mix and that he may actually be the UMBC of this year's tournament by finding his way onto the roster, and give me the player that has his back against the wall, which surprises you.
So I actually think it might be Ifeadi Odenigbo, I think it's pronounced. He's number 59 for those of you who don't watch preseason with a roster in hand because you kind of need one. Look, they made a lot of these signings over the course of the offseason. These young veteran type of players bounced around the league. Who is this guy? Yeah, right? You see a lot of that. And look, I don't know if it carries over, but he looks like a guy who's in the rotation right now. If the season started today, I want him active. I want him rushing the passer in relief of the starters. I just think he's earned that. So he's been really active. He's had a great camp, and it's carried over to games as well. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's a different scheme. The roles are different. So, certain guys may just be a good fit. So he's one that I think is a really interesting one. And then you also wanted to know, I'm sorry, on the other hand.
A guy that you're surprised that he's got his back against the wall, and it's like, whoa, I would not have guessed that he might be in trouble, but he may be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought that I'd say this. I thought that Ben Banogu, I never came to this camp thinking that Ben Banogu was some kind of lock to make the roster, okay? But I also thought that he might be rejuvenated because this is a different scheme, as I just said. I think it fits his skill set better than the old scheme. So I thought that was a positive. He also, has, as he has said recently in interviews, he's got a fresh set of eyes evaluating him. That's always a good thing. And frankly, he had a really good training camp last year, even though it didn't carry over. So I thought at least we'd see some spark from him in training camp and in the preseason. And the truth of the matter is he hasn't done anything. And I'm just surprised by that. Again, he was always on the bubble. He was on the bubble by virtue of not doing very much the last 3 years. But I just thought he'd flash more. I thought we'd see more of a spark from him, and I haven't seen it, and it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, he's run with the second unit a lot, but I would agree, Odenigbo, and I think even like Cameron Klein, number 92, like some of those other guys have flashed a little bit more than Banogu. Stephen Holder is with us here. Just a couple more. Sam Ehlinger, Stephen, Nick Foles is going to be the backup here in 2022. I look at the Colts roster situation right now, 6 days ahead of roster cuts. I think they've got room to stash Sam Ehlinger, and this is how I kind of view it. You put him on your initial 53-man roster, you get a week or two into the season, that's when you move him over to the practice squad, because that's when teams around the league have found their version of Sam Ehlinger, which means that guy has continued to learn the playbook, whereas if you're going to go and try and claim a Sam Ehlinger week 2 or week 3 of the season, you're also needing to account for, hey, he's got to come here, and then he's got to learn our playbook, which is going to take another X amount of weeks. And now you're getting a little bit deeper into the regular season. I feel like this is not too overly complicated. They've got room to carry him. You carry him for a couple of weeks until some injuries arise, and then if you need the roster spot, you move him to the practice squad.
That is 100% what I expect them to do, and it makes too much sense. It's also something I've discussed with people in the organization, and they haven't made a decision on it necessarily, and they certainly haven't told me if they have. But I think that's kind of where the conversation seems to be going, and it just makes a lot of sense. And here's a couple of things that are important about this. Number one, they do not necessarily feel that he's in. That there's a great likelihood that Sam Ehlinger would be claimed on waivers if they did cut him at final cuts. The reason for that is, obviously, you kind of laid this out. He's a quarterback. He'd have to learn someone else's system. And is there another team out there dying to claim him on waivers and make him their number 2? Because if he's going to be your number 3, what is the point, right? You're just taking up a roster spot for a guy who's new to your team and doesn't know your offense. That doesn't serve any purpose now. It only serves you a purpose until next offseason at the earliest. So no one is that invested in him. All right. So the odds are very, very slim, but they are not like, completely zero. So I think the Colts would, to be safe, I think they carry him a couple of weeks, a week or two. And then when the dust settles, then you put him on the practice squad. Look, the other thing I'd say, you didn't ask this, but just in case people are still wondering, look, they love Sam Ehlinger. And it's very clear why they love him. But there are things there are mistakes that he still makes that are not maybe obvious to the naked eye, to the layperson, that are going to get him in big trouble in the regular season. And they know that. The Colts know that. The coaches know that. And that's why Nick Foles is going to be the guy. It's not because Nick Foles has the better upside in the future. Of course he doesn't. But for right now, for what they need from their backup behind Matt Ryan, who never misses games, They need Nick Foles.
I think Jacob Eason might be available, right?
I saw he's had a horrible preseason.
No, Pete Carroll said he's looked good. Did a really good job.
He's like 47% completion
48%, 17 to 35, I think, right?
Well, that they've got such a great quarterback situation there, so,
Man. Drew Lock, Geno Smith, and Jacob Eason, right?
I tell you. That's a quarterback room for the ages right there.
Steven, one more, and I feel like we've had some really intelligent listener fan questions. That was Shane earlier with the one on Doyle or Hilton. This one from Matt. What streak do the Colts need to end immediately more? Week 1 drought or the drought in Jacksonville?
Wow. It's like 2 freight trains staring you in the
know.
face.
It's probably an unfair answer. I think it's week 1 just because if that lingers, into week 2, just because the order almost.
I think you're right. I just think that you get an emotional lift, a bigger emotional lift from winning your first game, especially when it just hasn't happened for so long. I mean, I think we can. The January loss in Jacksonville, I can't explain in terms of how it played out. The fact that they lost, okay, but how it happened, I can't explain it. But there are some games over the years where I'm like, okay, I can see how that happened. I can understand how that one happened. And, I could see a scenario where they lose in Jacksonville and it's probably not a death knell for this team and maybe not an indicator that they're done, right? But you got to win. I just think that opener in Houston, there's so much buildup for this season. Matt Ryan, the high hopes, the pressure, frankly, to win the division. You got to go beat Houston and get off to a good start. I just think it matters more.
Again, Stephen Holder with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Noon practice today, 10 a.m. tomorrow, and then camp is over from Grand Park in Westfield.
Amen.
Steven, yeah, exactly. Stephen, as always, thank you for your time.
Okay, guys, take it easy.
Stephen Holder right there on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Kevin, who has the best logo in the NFL? Not color scheme, just logo.
It's funny you say that. My nephew did a 4-minute video on the 32. He has those mini helmets.
Oh, yeah.
And he put them in
That's
order.
how I think there's a lot of kids that's how you. I mean, in Indianapolis, does your nephew live in Indy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's a Colts fan probably because he lives here. But like when I was a kid before the Colts were here, I think a lot of kids, that's kind of how they got their rooting interest, right? So he did a 4-minute video. Did he break down team by team?
Yeah, he went team by team. Who do you think was number one based off their logo? I believe instead of logo,
Now,
he used the word symbol.
I
like their symbol.
Did he go with the totality of the helmet or just the symbol?
I think color scheme is involved, but he was very focused.
And these
on
are
the
all
symbol.
the current modern logos, right?
Current modern logos.
So Bucco Bruce not a possibility.
No.
Okay. Houston Texans.
I should mention that he has a bias towards the AFC South, so he had the Texans, I think, last.
Really?
His
That's a pretty good look.
number
I mean,
one team is.
so he was. How much was he factoring in football?
Just for the AFC South teams, it seemed like his number one team also happens to be pretty good at football.
Rams.
Very good.
Rams.
I think he had the Rams like third or fourth. He went with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay. No, I mean that's not bad. Just a.
The arrowhead's kind of a cool looking symbol.
It is. It is.
I would think red is a color that stands out as well.
When I was his age.
You go in Thunderbolt, you go in Chargers?
No. When I was his age, there was a team that almost invariably was the late game. You know, back in 1981 in Indianapolis, we got 2 games. You got the early game and the late game, and that was it until Monday Night Football. And for whatever reason, there is one team that was almost seemingly, in my memory, always the late game. And it was always like kind of it was cold and snowy outside, and they would show this team playing, and they played indoors, and it was kind of cozy and warm. They weren't great, but their uniforms were awesome. And so their logo, to me, nostalgically speaking, I just think is so cool. And I love the logo. I love the colors of it, and I love the logo itself.
The Bills.
The Bills have changed a little bit. They've changed a little bit, right?
Is this another tease? I guess we have a guest coming up next.
We do. Dustin Dopirak, right? Did I get it right? Dopirak?
You'll get it one day.
I'm not trying to offend him. I mean, my last name is Query, so I'm very sensitive to those who have last names that can be mispronounced.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm Dykton. I've gotten my name mispronounced. My parents mispronounce our name sometimes.
Can you imagine if Query and Dykton went out for a night on the town?
Oh, boy.
That'd be a hell of a headline to see in the paper the next morning. All right.
Stay on this floor.
Are you going to reveal it?
I will reveal it when Dustin comes on.
Morning Checkdown here on Kevin and Corey.
The Morning Checkdown. Brought to you by QC Kinetics, relieving your joint pain at QCkinetics.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The logo of Kevin's nephew's favorite NFL symbol is in mourning this morning. Len Dawson passing away at the age of 87. The legendary Hall of Fame quarterback, the former Purdue great, who led the nation in passing efficiency when he overtook, that's probably the wrong word, when he took over, I should say, as the Boilers signal caller in 1954. Winner of Super Bowl V, NFL Man of the Year in 1973, and beloved media personality in Kansas City, Len Dawson. Condolences to those who knew him, passing away at the age of 87.
The cradle of quarterbacks, Dawson, Greasy. Is Danielson on that list?
Yeah, Jim Everett. Mike Phipps.
Breeze, of course.
Obviously, Breeze. You could probably put Kyle Orton in that list.
I was going to say, is Orton one fumble away from being on that list, or is he on it?
He's on there. I was like 10 feet away from that when that happened, by the way. It was like, holy cow.
Speaking of heartbreak, the heartbreak, I guess, was 2 days ago for Hagerstown. Unfortunately, yesterday, they look like a team coming off a really tough loss. They got 10-run ruled to end their stay in Williamsport, losing to Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Jake, amazing story. Memories for a lifetime. The walk-off to get there, to win the Great Lakes Regional, the walk-off in Game 1. Pretty incredible story.
By the way, Bob DeMoss was the first NFL quarterback out of Purdue to really launch the cradle of quarterbacks, for what it's worth. Major League Baseball yesterday, you had mentioned. Did you already give the Major League scores?
No, I just said Hagerstown.
Phillies over the Reds 7-6. It was the Braves over Pittsburgh 6-1. Dodgers 10-1 over the Brewers. The St. Louis Cardinals did get beat by the Cubs, snapping an 8-game skid, but then turned around 13-3. There was also a really good fight in the bleachers at Wrigley that somebody caught on camera. Indians over the Rochester Red Wings yesterday 3-2.
Do you think videos from the stands is what's keeping baseball alive right now? That and Aaron Judge's home runs.
Are you referencing Oakland?
Well, Oakland was a little dicey there. Have you shown Elijah that one, or should we not?
No, we can't do that. His mom messaged me to thank me for the internship, so I don't think we should,
Dustin Dopirak, I think the first syllable is what's given us a little bit of trouble here. I've known Dustin for about a decade. I've always gone with Dustin Dopirak. Lot to get to. Tom Allen has announced that they've picked a starter, but he hasn't publicly announced it. The opener's a week from Friday. We'll get Dustin's thoughts on that. A little update on Xavier Johnson's situation during the offseason.
People are guessing my logo, Kevin.
And yeah, I saw someone said the Saints.
Somebody else said Dolphins.
Did you say cold weather, or was I imagining things?
Scott Wise, by the way. And by the way, Roots is fabulous. There's going to be a second location, but 71st and Bedford.
Oh, it's right by my parents' house.
He says Dolphins.
The other Roots location, right?
It's great. Have you been there yet?
I went to the Roots one on Bedford. The popcorn?
Thursday pint night.
Don't let Joey Chestnut walk in there.
Dolphins, Raiders, all kinds of guesses coming in. Nobody's guessed it correctly, though.
We talked a little Notre Dame yesterday. Purdue's coming later in the week. IU time, and we come back here on Kevin Query.
My name is Kayla Cinders, and I work for Gleaners Food Bank. I am a local service manager for 3 counties in our 21-county service area, and I nominated Katie.
And I'm Jiffy Lube owner Steve Sanner. At Jiffy Lube, we are proud to support Hoosier charities that use their vehicles to do more to make Indiana a better place to live.
My name is Katie Wilkerson. I pick up at the mobile food pantries. The best part of volunteering to hand someone some food and see the smile on their face, the relief. Without my vehicle, there's no way I'd be able to do this. To go to any of the pantries, it's at least 18 miles.
Jiffy Lube of Indiana provides all of our Do More winners with free vehicle maintenance for a year. Because now at Jiffy Lube, our trained technicians do more to keep vehicles like theirs and yours on the road. Brakes, tires, batteries, and more. As well as Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
Jiffy Lube accepts competitors' coupons, so you don't have to choose between saving a few dollars versus treating your vehicle to Jiffy Lube's award-winning service. Click on JiffyLubeIndiana.com for a Jiffy Lube near you.
Hubler has all the top brands: Chevy, Buick, GMC, Ford, Acura, Honda, Mazda, Nissan, and more. And every new vehicle includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Looking to sell your vehicle? We'll pay you top dollar, even if you don't buy ours. Take it from Brooke Hubler.
You can get a car anywhere, but you can only get a warranty like this at Hubler. 10 years, 200,000 miles.
Visit drivehubler.com. Warranty available on new vehicles except certain models, not transferable or available on leases. Copy of the warranty is available for review at the dealership.
What's happening with The Fan?
Remember to follow The Fan on all your favorite social media platforms. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like and follow The Fan and stay up to date on events, giveaways, and all things sports. And if you think you have the best sports trivia knowledge, listen to Kevin and Query weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. and call into the pop quiz for your chance to win a signature Jiffy Lube oil service.
For more info, click on 1075thefan.com.
The ultimate end of summer party is coming. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022, September 3rd and 4th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Featuring great music, great food and lifestyle with performances by Daryl Hall and John Oates, Cage the Elephant, John Fogerty, Portugal the Man, plus Lucinda Williams, Trampled by Turtles, The Four Tops, and many more. Multiple stages, multiple days. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022. Get details and tickets now at allinfestival.com. Last season, Carmel took a 7-game winning streak into the sectional championship and lost big. Center Grove took their undefeated season to the state championship game and won for the second year in a row. Now, these two independent powerhouses clash under Friday Night Lights, presented by CarX. Don't worry, call the CarX team. Brendan King has the game Friday night at 7 on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So early 80s, late 70s, watching NFL football late game. It is true. Somebody points out Dallas was always on. I was a Steelers fan. You were basically a fan of the Steelers Cowboys unless you went Bears Bengals. We've talked about this before in this market prior to Indy getting the Colts. But the team that I always recall being on the late game, and they would always show in the upper levels of the stadium, a huge group of fans from Alaska. That was like the big thing. The Seattle Seahawks. I loved the Jim Zorn, Steve Largent, Kurt Warner, that's with a C, era, silver helmeted, but green and blue Seahawk logo with that eye. Love it.
I could definitely see that. Now, you just watched a little bit of that video I was talking about.
Fabulous.
About my nephew going through each helmet.
It's awesome. Every team he either says, I like this because I like that logo. I like this because I like that logo.
Symbol.
My friend knows somebody on that team, so I like them. And I was just getting to the part where he starts talking about the teams he doesn't like when the commercial break ended.
He also said that he misses Carson Wentz. I don't know how many people in the city of Indianapolis he agrees with. By the way, Jim Irsay on the Colts official podcast this week, to say that Jim has softened his comments on Carson Wentz would be a large mistake. Let's just say Jim utters a few phrases on there that I'm like, this man just does not want to give it up, does he?
Yeah, man. I mean,
and if you're Carson Wentz,
I've heard a little bit.
You see that Colts Commanders game on the schedule.
I will say this: I've heard a little bit more about some of the stuff that probably led to that sentiment, and some of it you go, yeah, well, I get it now.
We'll share that here in a little bit. Let's talk quarterbacks to begin with. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times, an outstanding job. Glad that he's back on the IU beat. He is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I believe you used to cover the Steelers. Is that the only coverage in the NFL you have, Dustin? Steelers?
Yeah, I did that for DK for a year. I did a season on the Steelers beat. So yes, that is my NFL coverage. I've probably been to another exhibition game or something. I think I was chasing down Ben Chappell once and ended up covering a Colts game. So I think that was
I do remember seeing you at a Colts preseason game for some Ben Chappell action.
Yep.
Okay, IU starting quarterback next Friday night. Tom Allen says they've chosen one. He will not announce it publicly. Your best guess is to who?
I mean, I lean Connor Bazelak, but I don't know that. That's not based on, reporting. That's based on, just having been there. I don't think there's a drastic difference. I think there's a chance. There's definitely a chance to still Jack Tuttle, for sure. I say still as if, he had won it before. Obviously, he's started a couple of games when Michael Penix was hurt. But I could believe either way.
And could you share a little bit about Bazelak for our listeners that I think know Tuttle's name based off last year, but the transfer from Missouri, they do not?
Right, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, coming from Missouri, threw for 5,000 yards there over the last 2 years. Started, I think, 19 games, I want to say, over the past 2 seasons, but did lose the job at the end of the year to Brady Cook. Did not have a good performance in the last regular season game of the season when they lost to Arkansas, and then did not start. Brady Cook took the job over for the Armed Forces Bowl, and I can't remember who they played, but I know they lost. So, bottom line, obviously, he's more prolific, obviously, than Tuttle, mostly just because Tuttle has been stuck in a backup role behind Penix the last couple of years. So basically, obviously, has a lot more game experience, has put up bigger numbers, is a little bit of a bigger guy. I think he's 6'3", 224, just like a little bit bulkier than Tuttle is. But Tuttle's lost a lot of weight and tried to trim down a little bit. Bazelak has pretty good arm strength, throws a really catchable ball, really quick release. That's a couple of things that Tom Allen really likes about him. Basically, just likes his ability just to complete passes downfield. Seems like a little bit more effective at that than Tuttle, but does have a history of turnovers. As I think he had 23 touchdowns and 17 interceptions in his time at Missouri. So, I think a lot of people look at it and say, well, okay, you went and got this guy who has been a starter in the SEC. You didn't get him not to start, basically, where Tuttle was sort of used to being in that backup role. But obviously, Tuttle has been itching, and remember, Tuttle was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, was a high 4-star guy, a Elite 11 quarterback, went to Utah first before he transferred to Indiana, and just, again, has been stuck behind Penix the last couple of years. So it's an interesting battle. I mean, again, I lean that Bazelak is going to be the guy, but I don't think that's a guarantee at all.
Dustin, every once in a while, I get this like premonition, and about 70% of the time I turn out to be a moron. 30% of the time they turn out to be correct, in which point I tell everybody about that 30% so that they think that I'm a genius.
Well, that's wise. I think that's a good way of doing things.
Yeah. One of those that I had, and I've mentioned it on this program, but I recall when Indiana was playing Virginia in Tom Allen's first year as the head coach, I believe it was, and they won the game in a rainstorm, and he ran around and he was high-fiving students, and he kicked over a trash can, and he tackled his kid on the field, and people thought it was awesome, and I'm like, that's cool, but for a fan base that's kind of coming off of a Tom Crean fatigue, this could wear thin very quickly. And then they had a really good year, obviously, in the COVID year, an amazing year. And I think Tom Allen is an incredibly likable personality, don't get me wrong. But after last year's disappointment, I feel like Tom Allen's rah-rah high level, in particular coming off of still like the sour of Tom Crean's antics on the sidelines, has created a fan base that now the margin for error is extremely thin, even though financially speaking, there's not much they can do with them. But I feel like the backlash of the pendulum could be right there waiting to swing. Am I absolutely being just sour this morning?
I mean, not absolutely. I mean, they're different people. I mean, I think, having covered both of them, they're very different guys. I mean, like, yes, the high energy, real idealistic talking sort of thing, being a salesman for the program, there's similarities there. And I've got a lot of respect for Crean. I do. We obviously battled. We butted heads. Like, Tom's level of paranoia is a whole heck of a lot higher. And so that, I think there's a mania to Tom, to Crean, that isn't there for Tom Allen. And that matters as far as wearing thin on both the fan base and, frankly, the staff as a whole. Tom Crean can wear you out, period, where Allen does not. It's not the same thing. So that does matter. I mean, I think you can see, like, if you're looking at him from a distance, you might not be able to tell, but up close, it's a drastically different experience. And so I like for instance, I think that will get Tom Allen grace within the department that it didn't get Crean. Because again, Crean could wear out his assistants, staff members, marketing people, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
Where Tom Allen's not going to do that.
But do you think the fans, the fan base, not those that are like around it, but from the outside?
But aren't expectations different?
They are.
That's the thing. Is fans are like their baseline idea that they feel like they're not getting what they're being sold is real. That's an area where I'd agree with you. Of this, they really got their hopes up for last year, and I think you kind of look at the similar tracks of that third when Indiana got together under Crean and that 13 team, it was sort of built up as this like good is triumphing over evil sort of thing of here is Indiana doing it the right way, and they put together this great team, and Indiana is back. And when you lose to Syracuse, then it's like everybody just felt like they got their balloon popped. And there's some similarities in terms of the narrative here of like, look at this guy, Tom Allen, he's everybody's favorite human being, and they're winning. You could do it the right way, and everything's great. And Indiana is going to be a Big Ten power, and then they go 2-10. So I think that narrative, yes, and there's a huge level of disappointment in the fan base now, for sure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is a very low level of interest after this team. Fans were just so bought in last year. I mean, I think they got three games where they drew 50,000 to Memorial Stadium, and that doesn't happen. When they get 3 games like that, that's not normal. And I would be really, they'd be lucky if they get 40 to Illinois. So that's real. And don't get me wrong. So like that fatigue is there, but I think there is difference. And for another thing, Allen's owning it as far as saying like, hey, last year was bad. We messed up. And we've got to get a lot of things right. There's got to be more accountability. And, it starts with me, like this first off, like I got to do a better job. When we look back at this year, I could see last year, a whole bunch of things went wrong, and this is how we're addressing them. And it's not that Crean never did that. I mean, Crean took responsibility. I want to act like he doesn't, but he was just sort of more willing to try to find a different way to spin it, where Allen has been pretty straightforward about saying, like, obviously this wasn't good enough, and, this is what went wrong, and we've got to be real about it, and they have been.
Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. One more football question, Dustin, before we shift to a little bit of basketball. Clearly, the ship is taking on some water down there for Tom Allen, and recruiting, I don't think, has been something that you can point to and be like, oh, yeah, 2 wins is 2 wins, but they are recruiting at a better level. Like, that started to leak a little bit as well. It seems like it's like a mountainous jump from 5 to 6 wins in how we evaluate football seasons for mediocre college football programs. But what would get things back on steady waters for IU this season from a win total standpoint?
Yeah, no, I think 6 would definitely do it. 6 would definitely make a huge difference. I mean, just getting to a bowl game. I mean, it doesn't even matter what happens in the bowl game. You just get to one. That would make a huge difference. And I don't, I'd be surprised. I mean, the weird part about it is too, though, is that like if they had done well last year, this year would kind of be a gimme because a lot more guys would have left basically, and you would have said, okay, well they had just all these, because they always had a lot of fifth-year guys and sixth-year guys even last year, like Ty Freifogel and Marcelino Ball, and you would have said, okay, they had all this whole big class of guys or just big group of guys who, just were really successful and moved on, and so 2022 isn't going to be a great year. They'll, win 4 games, there's going to be a dip, and that's just how it goes for Indiana football, but, like that's it would have been a gimme for Tom Allen, but since they lost, it's like then there's higher expectations. Not even higher expectations, but like, well, this team has to perform, and they did lose a bunch of guys, and they did lose a bunch of talent, Micah McFadden, et cetera. And so, ordinarily you would just expect this to be a down cycle team, and now this team has to at least do something. But I would say if you get back to 6 wins, then all of a sudden that improves things and get things back on steady ground. But I mean, obviously they wouldn't be recruiting like they were last year. Like getting it back on the trajectory that it was on requires 7 or 8. Again, like 6 might steady the ship. 4 or 5 even might be enough to not, get plug a couple leaks, I guess, in the boat, if you will. But to get back on the trajectory, it's got to be 8 or 9, and that's going to be really, really hard to come by considering.
Dustin, in terms of the coaching staff, and I'm not trying to belabor the Tom Allen point, but I'm curious about this. I've known Kevin Wright a long time. I like Kevin Wright a great deal. Kevin Wright, for those that are unfamiliar, the former Warren coach who then went to IMG and is now on the Indiana staff. I anticipated when he was brought in that eventually his role would elevate. Am I way off base there, and am I overthinking, or did I overestimate what his role would be?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, I wasn't around the program at the time, and I only know Kevin so well. I've probably, we probably had a couple interviews with him, and that's all. They obviously had to do a, just major change on the offensive staff last year, and promoting the tight ends coach wasn't going to cut it. I mean, just whoever he is, no matter how good of a sharp of a guy he is, no matter how good of a guy he is. They had to get a new coordinator, and then they had to go get guys that were established as far as position coaches when they lost their running backs coach and they lost their wide receivers coach. I mean, that they had to really swing big, and obviously that's, I think, why they went and got a couple guys with NFL experience at those positions, and then had to get a coordinator who had been a coordinator. I think that's sort of why I guess he hasn't been given an opportunity to move up. With all of this offensive, staff movement. That doesn't mean he's doing a bad job. I mean, I think he did a great job getting Peyton Hendershot right. I think Peyton Hendershot was, arguably you could say he was the most consistent, skill position player on offense last year, and he obviously went to Dallas. I think he's performed pretty well as an undrafted free agent, this offseason. So, I mean, you got to say good things about him, obviously, especially after Hendershot got himself in a whole lot of trouble and was, and deserved trouble considering what he was in for having a domestic violence issue. So, for him to kind of get Hendershot right, it speaks well to, Kevin Wright as a coach. I think he has a chance to even improve himself, standing even further this year. I think AJ Barner has a chance to be basically to be a star tight end on this team, and you just be able to sort of hand that off, and then you can look at Kevin Wright and say, hey, look, he's produced a bunch of, a couple of really, really top end players at that position. He probably deserves to move up a little bit. But I mean, tight ends coach is important. I mean, it is an important position. I'm not totally sure, off the top of my head what his salary is. But tight end matters because, I mean, it's a position that matters in the run game. It matters in the pass game. I mean, those guys got to perform to make things work. So I think it is not a small job to be tight ends coach. So but he does, I think, have a chance to improve himself this year if Barner also stacks, give him kind of another top player at that position. Then you could say, okay, he's produced a couple guys.
Dustin, switching gears to basketball before we let you go. I know you were at the, Fan Fest NIL thing over the weekend at Assembly Hall. You saw a little bit of scrimmaging, some three-point activities, those sorts of things. You've been on and off the beat over the past decade, but I think you've always had a great pulse on things. I think this is the most optimism for the program easily since that 2013 team. Would you agree with that?
Probably. I mean, obviously the 16 team won the Big Ten, and I think there was some even decent optimism for all that there was. People weren't thrilled with Treen at that point. I mean, that team won and won something real. So, I mean, I don't think there was as much optimism going into that season because they just had the tough year the year before that we dealt with guys getting in trouble and stuff. So. But probably, definitely since I've been back, that's for sure. Although the getting Romeo Langford was a big deal, and obviously they had some optimism with that team. But I think you look at this group and say, okay, well, there's way more pieces there. The Big Ten comes down, and I think that really matters. I mean, for a lot of people, are like, well, are you really why is everybody lifting this team up so high when they were 21-14 last year and couldn't shoot the basketball and all this kind of stuff? A major issue is the fact that the Big Ten lost a ton of talent. I mean, I want to say out of the 16 guys that were named all Big Ten by either the coaches or the media, 13 of them are gone. And so, Trace Jackson Davis is one of maybe two guys that you could see as an All-American, with Hunter Dickinson being the other. And so you have that as a centerpiece. And then you've got a lot of other depth. I think for the freshman class, I thought I was really impressed with several of those guys. I mean, obviously, they're not, it was a true open gym type of deal, and they're not, running, Mike Woodson's plays or anything like you might for Hoosier Hysteria, where he's, just at least pulling some of the strings, and they're just doing some of the basic vanilla stuff. This was just them, wide open, running up and down like it's an all-star game. But Jalen Hood-Schifino looks like a college-ready player. Malik Reno has a lot more perimeter skill than I realized. He was bringing the ball up. Again, this is open gym. This isn't him playing a position, but Reno was slick with it, not having any problem at all, just bringing the ball up 90 feet as a guy that I think can play center on this team. Caleb Banks looks good. CJ Gunn looks good, and that's the freshman. Tamar Bates looks. I don't want to say he looks like a different guy, but I mean, obviously he had a lot of struggles last year. Highly recruited player. He comes out and hits 37 threes in 90 seconds in the three-point contest, and then just right off the tip comes off and takes, they drew up a 4-point shot, and he come up and drilled one. So that was the guy that they recruited. That was the guy they were expecting that they didn't really get last year. So you add him to the mix and add all those pieces, and you're looking at a team that's got a lot of depth. I mean, they're going to have tough decisions as to who plays where. When you're trying to find a way to get Jordan Geronimo on the floor, Race Thompson's still going to be there. They've got a lot of dudes. So I think definitely if you're an Indiana fan, you can look at the team and say it can win the league. Do I think it's a national championship favorite in the same way that 13 was? No, I don't think they've got quite that much juice. But you could definitely see Big Ten champions as a reality for this group the more and more you look at them.
Dustin, we only got about a minute left. I saw you had something on Xavier Johnson yesterday, just the legal situation. Is it safe to say the team punishment will not be anything, or do we not know that 100% sure yet?
Yeah, we don't know that 100% sure yet. I mean, I tried to get something out of IU. I guess I'd be surprised because, Mike Woodson has not come out at all and said much of anything, since this happened in April. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if you find out there is no suspension, but that doesn't mean there won't be. I mean, I think, obviously he pled guilty to reckless driving, and they got the felony charge withdrawn, which was the resisting law enforcement. But, I mean, he, for all practical purposes, admitted that he did what they accused him of doing, which was, he was driving the car. and he was doing it at a very high rate of speed. And apparently, based on the police report, he had tried to, get in the back seat and say that somebody else was driving. So he admitted he was the guy driving the car. I think, if you're Mike Woodson, I don't think it's a bad idea to send a message to say, okay, your fifth year senior can't get in trouble doing that. I mean, I don't know how you suspend all those guys for whatever happened at Northwestern, which just sounds like they all violated curfew, which again is a significant stroke the night before an important game, and say that you're, point guard driving 90 in a 40 is not a bad idea that requires some level of punishment. So, he's got the standing to do so if he wants to, but obviously this, getting the felony charge obviously is important. He's got a 60-day suspended sentence, 360 days of probation, and 50 hours of community service. So, he doesn't have to spend any time in jail, which is, presuming that he, doesn't get any, stays out of trouble for the length of his probation. So that doesn't force Mike Woodson's hand to do anything, but it's still, might be smart for him to send a message there.
Again, a week from Friday, it'll be Indiana and Illinois, an 8 o'clock kick from Bloomington. Dustin, great stuff as always. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, fellas. Dustin
Dopirak right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. We are way over. We'll get back into the Colts conversation.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, today, Wednesday, August 24th, we're running an unprecedented one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. Even Cambridge has studied our technology. If you're ready to transform your love life, grab your phone. Today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that, guys. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is our most lucrative offer ever, worth $1,200, but call today, Wednesday, and qualify totally free. 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 317-552-1111.
4 days only, the Tom Wood 96th Street Used Car Super Sale, with vehicles available from multiple dealerships starting at $99 a month. Cash cars from $995. Bank reps on site for immediate approval. Fords, Nissans, Volkswagens, Subarus, Hondas, Chevys, Jeeps, Toyotas. Over 500 available. Most with lifetime powertrain coverage. Only at the 96th Street Super Sale at Tom Wood Volkswagen on 96th Street, Wednesday through Saturday.
Limited inventory of 995 vehicles, including stock number V24192B and $99 payment vehicles, including stock number MH12447A. Offers available with approved credit, tax, title, registration, and $199 doc fee extra. Subject to availability.
It's a fact. Only 0.0001% of people will ever step up to the plate as a pro baseball player. For the rest of us, there's BetRivers.com Sportsbook app. Featuring same-game parlays, you can combine different bets all from the same game. Totals? Bet 'em. Spreads? Bet 'em. Player props? It's a home run. Download the BetRivers.com Sportsbook app today. It's a whole new game.
Must be 21. Must be located in Indiana. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448.
Hey, it's JMV here for John and Chris Love. That's Love Heating and Air, 317-353-2141. I would not trust anybody else with my cool and comfort in-house and making sure that my system is running efficiently. If you feel as if yours isn't, 353-2141. Get that checkup from John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air, making sure it doesn't cost you money and you remain cool and comfortable. Love Heating and Air, 317-353-2141 online, love-hvac.com today.
Don't miss the Colts kickoff concert at Lucas Oil Stadium on September 9th from 7 to 10 p.m. This is a one-of-a-kind celebration of football and music with the Jim Irsay Collection and the Jim Irsay Band. Experience the world's greatest guitar collection, presidential artifacts, sports memorabilia from Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, and much more. And for the first time ever, Colts fans will get to see up close historic Colts memorabilia from Peyton Manning, Tony Dungy, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and more. The evening will be topped off with a free concert by the all-star Jim Irsay Band, featuring special guests Ann Wilson of Heart and the legendary Buddy Guy.
I got the blues.
That's one night only with the Jim Irsay Collection and the Jim Irsay Band. Friday, September 9th, 7 to 10 p.m. at Lucas Oil Stadium. Get your free ticket at JimIrsayCollection.com.
Hey, it's JMV, and guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Schedule your complete health assessment at Low T Center. They now offer the convenience of monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments for just $155 a month, cash pay, or covered by most health insurance. If you don't live near a Low T Center or you just need the convenience of a home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy. Only your first 2 visits are in person. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Do you know a volunteer who deserves a year's worth of free vehicle maintenance? Tell us their story and nominate them. Click the Do More tab at JiffyLubeIndiana.com.
There's more at Four Winds Casino South Bend. More games, more winning, more fun. The expanded gaming floor at Four Winds Casino South Bend is now open. 27 table games, 1,900 of the hottest slots, 16 live poker tables, and endless winning possibilities. And coming early 2023, Four Winds South Bend Hotel. Find your game at Four Winds Casino South Bend, your entertainment escape.
Hey, Wings Etc. fans, guess what? It's Wings Schooner Madness time. Come get slam dunk, dine-in only discounts on big, ice-cold domestic schooners, award-winning jumbo wings, and crispy boneless wings.
You heard it right, Wings Etc. fans. From now through August 31st, Wings Etc.'s award-winning traditional and boneless wings are just 79 cents, and our domestic schooners are just $5.50.
The beer is cold, the deals are hot, the TVs are tuned. Every play that'd make a season ticket holder jealous.
Now through August 31st, traditional and boneless wings are just 79 cents, and domestic schooners are just $5.50.
Now's not the time to drop the ball on this limited time pricing, because Wings Schooner Madness is only for limited time and only at Wings Etc.
Dine-in only. Pricing and participation vary by location. See store for details. Wings Etc. in Avon, Canby, Connorsville, Franklin, Greenfield, Marion, Martinsville, Muncie, Noblesville, Peru, Plainfield, Shelbyville, and in Indianapolis on Shadeland and at Emerson and East Thompson Road.
4 days only, the Tom Wood 96th Street Used Car Super Sale with vehicles available from multiple dealerships starting at $99 a month. Cash cars from $995. Bank reps on site for immediate approval. Fords, Nissans, Volkswagens, Subarus, Hondas, Chevys, Jeeps, Toyotas. Over 500 available. Most with lifetime powertrain coverage. Only at the 96th Street Super Sale at Tom Wood Volkswagen on 96th Street, Wednesday through Saturday.
Limited inventory of 995 vehicles, including stock number V24192B and $99 payment vehicles, including stock number MH12447A. Offers available with approved credit, tax, title, registration, and $199 fee extra. Subject to availability.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis. Braves, Cardinals, Sunday Night Baseball. The coverage begins at 6 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Previously on Kevin and Query.
My number one, from an X's and O's, watching the film, football standpoint, he probably is not as on-the-field critical as the others that we've mentioned. There are certain players that when teams deep down need a jolt, when they need a play, when they need a stop, when they need energy, and when they need a takeaway, Darius Leonard is the guy that delivers for them. And I just think that he brings with him a presence, and I think that to a great extent his teammates feed off of it. And he is unquestionably the leader of that defense, and that defense is going to have to play at a high level and is expected to this year. So Darius Leonard is my number one. Okay, so that was when we were doing our 10 most indispensable, and I had said earlier that I felt like as a football player admittedly I sound like I'm being completely contradictory, which is my biggest pet peeve in sports radio, so I apologize for that. I feel like, again, there is an it factor about Shaquille Leonard there, no doubt about it, as I mentioned there when we were doing that a month ago or so. And I don't want it to sound like sour grapes, and I know it sounds like it, but I wonder if from a football X's and O's standpoint, not the energy level or what I was talking about there, if Leonard is not a little bit overrated. And by that, what I mean is from a football standpoint, in terms of like a statistical standpoint, if the drop-off of Darius Leonard to a Bobby Okereke, if Shaquille Leonard is not able to go right away, if the drop-off is not as significant as we would be led to believe. And that when they need plays, he makes it, and that is absolutely impossible to replicate or put a thumbprint on in terms of his ability to take the football away. There's just an inherent thing about him where, like, when a big play is needed, he seems to deliver. But I guess what I'm getting at is, does that offset relatively average play at his position for the other 80% of the game?
I think those plays are so monumental, Jake, that it doesn't.
I get it.
You know, were Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis known for stopping the run?
Right.
No.
Fair.
But with a minute 30 to go in the fourth quarter, when you needed to close the door shut on a win, they had a strip sack that won you the football game. And Leonard, I thought you laid it out beautifully, Jake, right there. And I know Mark kind of made that little tongue-in-cheek, but the timeliness of the turnovers.
Yeah.
He's a fourth quarter guy, not a first quarter guy.
Right.
You know, I mean, he shows up. You know, I've made this analogy before, and Jake, you've seen it time and time again. It's one thing to score 12 points in the first quarter of an NBA game. It's a different thing to score 12 points in the fourth quarter. It's one thing to shoot 65 in a PGA Tour event on Thursday. It's a whole other thing to do it on Sunday afternoon. And more often than not, I think Leonard delivers with those big plays in those moments. Is his run defense great? No, probably not.
I guess what I'm getting at is this.
Pounds. I also think he's more of a modern linebacker. I'd rather have the modern linebacker in today's league be better in the pass game than be in the run game.
I guess, Kevin, what I'm getting at is this. And I realize it sounds... Again, there's nothing that drives me more crazy, and I hear plenty of it, believe me. When I listen to sports talk radio and I hear somebody spewing something, and I'm like, dude, you just said the opposite of that 5 minutes ago. I hear plenty of that. So I don't want to be that guy. I guess the best way to summarize what I'm saying, and it drives me crazy to myself sometimes when, like, I, in my mind, know what I'm trying to say, but I know it's not coming out clearly. It drives me crazy.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like there is something that Leonard brings to this team that you can't put a tag on. I get that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, at its simple football core, if other teams were to simply watch tape of the Indianapolis Colts, I don't know that Shaquille Leonard jumps off the tape to them as much to an opposition or to somebody who is not there seeing what he brings than as much as it would to somebody who's on the inside. From an outside observation, I think you'd say he's a good football player, but I don't know that he is twice the player of the guy replacing him or 40% the player of the guy replacing him or whatever else, except for those plays you're talking about. But I'm just saying, in terms of a basic X's and O's schematic standpoint, I think he's a very good player, but I think he's labeled as an upper echelon elite player. And that's because of a handful of plays that you don't always know that he's going to carry on from one year to the next.
I think there's a trickle-down effect, Jake, we have to acknowledge as well. Okay, Shaquille Leonard to Bobby Okereke, but what about then Bobby Okereke to Zaire Franklin?
I get it. I get what you're saying.
There is
sure,
kind of the domino effect. I also think this. I do think with the arrival of Yannick Ngakoue, Stephon Gilmore, Julian Blackmon healthy, I do feel like there is an element of the Colts are better equipped to handle a Leonard loss than maybe they would have been last year or 2 years ago, things like that. And this is all in reference to Frank Reich's comments. If you guys missed that, we'll definitely have it on the podcast a little bit later about there's a real possibility that Shaquille Leonard misses some real football. We've not seen him yet at Grand Park, and Frank Reich's answer yesterday was we've got to get him off that PUP list at some point to practice. Not play, to practice. When you're on the physically unable to perform list, you cannot practice. And it sounds like there's going to be a ramp-up period. Jim Irsay has stressed that with Leonard. Frank Reich has mentioned that, there's going to be an element of he's got to play at 90, 95%, but I still think we are a ways away from seeing Leonard with that. We still got to give out our Camp Champ of the Day. That's brought to you by Quack Daddy Donuts in Westfield. where the best maple bacon donuts reside, 3 miles
We're
south.
going to be right next to it tomorrow.
Of Colts Camp, we will be. QuackDaddyDonuts.com. We'll be up at Colts Camp. I did want to bring up something you said a little bit earlier. We had a listener, Scotty, not Scotty, our pop quiz constructor, but a different Scotty, messaged me last night. Did you hear Jim Irsay on the Colts official podcast? And I listened to it. At that point, I had not heard it, but he was like, man, he's not letting this Wentz thing go. And I listened to it. I agreed with Scotty. I responded back and forth, and Scotty messaged me today, and he goes, are you guys going to talk about that? And I'm like, well, I mean, first off, we've got
kind of a dead horse, right?
Yeah, we've got the Sanchez news. We've got the Leonard news. That's more relevant, and we've talked about this. But you brought up something earlier, Jake, and if you don't mind sharing, maybe just a little bit more intel on the Jim Irsay Carson Wentz dynamic, if that's fair to say.
When we talked to Zaire Franklin, I believe it was Zaire Franklin.
Yeah, opening day of camp.
And I asked him about Matt Ryan, and he said, man, Matt Ryan's just got an it factor. He walked into from day one, and there was a leadership about him that guys responded to. And there is an it factor. Shaquille Leonard probably has that it factor, and that's why we talk about him. And I said, okay. And then I said, does Carson Wentz have an it factor? And if you recall, he was like Zaire Franklin, who's a really smart dude and a good interview, kind of went silent for a second, like, I don't know how to answer that. And he said, he's just kind of more to himself. And it's my understanding that that's how he was even when the upper brass was around. That Kevin, if you're walking down the hall in our building and you're leaving and you're going towards the elevator and you see, I don't know, just somebody from one of the other departments and they're on the other side of the hallway and you guys kind of make eye contact. Maybe you kind of give them a head nod and you keep going towards the elevator. But if it's one of the 3 top people in the building, you probably make it a point to say, hey, how are you? Right?
Or just be like, have you, oh gosh, I just fumbled that. That's awkward.
But you make it a point to recognize
the elevator's
them, right?
here. I'll see you later.
And I don't know that was a strength of Carson Wentz. I'll leave it at that. But I also think that and I know that people are tired of hearing this, and I get it. And I'm not saying that this is me saying Carson Wentz had to be vaccinated. I'm not saying that. But the quarterback is on a different standard. And when Jim Irsay sat down and basically said that he wanted players to be vaccinated, and Carson Wentz said, I'm going to choose not to do that, Jim Irsay basically said, that is fine. That is your right. That is your prerogative as a grown man and an American citizen, and I'm not here to stop you from that liberty, but just know that you are putting yourself in position to be held to a different standard if it comes back to hurt my franchise. And Jim Irsay, when Carson Wentz was not available for practice in the last 2 and most important 2 weeks of the season, and then went out and absolutely wet his leg in the biggest game of the year in a must-win game against one of the most dog-bleep programs and franchises in the NFL, Jim Irsay at that point was like, I'm done. And there was no turning back.
To be fair, he did practice before the Jacksonville game. I don't know if that makes it any better or worse.
But he was the week before
it was
he
just
was
the Raiders.
Well,
week.
they changed the rules or whatever that last week, right? But
yeah, my thing with Irsay is I appreciate honesty, I appreciate candor, but can you move on?
I totally agree with that.
It's not like Matt Taylor and Jeffrey Gorman on the Colts official podcast are leading Jim Irsay down this path.
I totally agree
they're
with
like,
that.
hey, Jim, let's go back with Carson in
Totally
that final
agree.
game of the
I
season.
will say that Carson Wentz, I don't think, did a very good job of showing his understanding of the chain of command as he should have.
And okay, and
I totally
August
agree
24th.
with you. I completely agree.
You know, it's just like I'm just tired of it, frankly. And Irsay, I mean, I'll let you guys go and listen to the audio. I mean, he's like, great quarterbacks. They win in Jacksonville. No question about it. And it's like, yeah, sure. Did you see your defense with the first drive of Trevor
you're
Lawrence?
right.
He didn't have an incompletion on the opening drive of the game. I thought they should have moved on from Wentz, but I also can sit here and be like, dude, you play Carson Wentz and his new football team in 2 months in your own building.
Can you imagine if the Colts lose that game?
I mean, if I'm Carson Wentz, I've said this numerous times, Jake, and I win that game, now Carson Wentz, by all accounts, a good Christian human and probably wouldn't do this, I'd go double birds to the owner's box. I'd go Kirk Cousins in the postgame locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about self-motivation for that one. So I don't want to beat that into the ground.
Speaking of like the top and things like that, most people don't know, nor should they care, but we're undergoing a change here at our place of employment in terms of the bosses that we have, right?
Yes.
And so as a result of that, and I don't want to get too into specifics here because I don't, want to be like busted for some sort of illegalities. I have no idea the legalities on this, but you get emails, and people listening hopefully can relate to this because they've been through situations like this with work or whatnot. When your benefit packages change, or all of a sudden you find out that this investment now all of a sudden is with this group or whatever else, and that includes. And I'm really dumb with this stuff. I don't understand any of this stuff, but my understanding is that you can sign up for different things where your paycheck, some of the money goes towards paying your veterinary bills, and some of the money you get set aside for another gift card that goes towards paying dentist bills, and then another one that pays visual, whatever. So I get this notification saying, listen, you've got this money in a hopper that is there in case you need to go to the podiatrist and you don't have any podiatrist appointments in between now and when the ownership changes, so you need to you just spend this money or you're going to lose it. But here is the list of places where you can spend this money in this account that you have set aside for medical purposes. And I get it. It is to be spent for medical purposes but that account's going to go away. Did you get this email, or are you on a different plan?
Yeah, yes, I did get the email. And I have been in the situation where, late in the year, you're like, wait, I have that much money left over? Boy, I need to start spending.
Right, and apparently it doesn't roll over, or it doesn't go into the new folks are like, no, we do things differently here, so you've got to spend that. Okay, fine. So I get on this website where you can buy stuff, right, that using this money that is going to evaporate here in 10 days. So I have 10 days to buy this, right? So I get on this website and it says, now, this is great. Here are all the things you can buy. I mean, we are really interested in selling you a $43 bottle of vitamins, that kind of thing. And so, okay, vitamins. I've got this money to spend. And so I look at it, and at the end it says, well, enter your debit card number here. Well, I don't have a debit card. So I call the number, and I say, I've never been given this debit card. And they said, well, and now is your address? And they listed an address that I had 7 years ago, and that is not my address. And I said, well, no, I don't live there anymore. Oh, well, we have the wrong information. Well, we'll send you a new card. You'll get it in 15 to 30 business days. Well, I've got 10 days to spend this, right? So, well, can you expedite it? So the card shows up, and now I've got literally 2 days to spend stuff, okay? I've got 48 hours to spend all of this money, and I get on the website, and literally, and I'm not kidding you when I tell you this, it's nothing but feminine hygiene products, okay? So I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with this?
Well, you said it's, Shannon's parents' anniversary, maybe.
Well, and then I'm worried about, okay,
birthday's covered.
Do I have to spend this on me, or is this fraud if I spend it on if I start giving out Christmas gifts of nothing but Tampax for Christmas? Is that am I going to be in trouble?
You shouldn't have.
So
we should have gone to that NFL game on Christmas instead of celebrating with Jake.
One of the things that I could purchase was prescription sunglasses, right? So I can tell you right now, you're going to be working with Stevie Wonder here in 3 months because I bought 9 pair of prescription sunglasses because I have this money that I've got to do something with. And then I had $140 left over, And I happened to go to my parents' house, and I said to my parents, listen, I've got this money left over in this account, and apparently I have to spend it. Like, literally, I have no choice. Do you want to? And my dad says, oh, well, let me look at that. And I said, well, the card is already logged in, so just pick whatever you want. This is free shopping here, Dad. I went and looked at the thing. My dad ordered $137 worth of Band-Aids. Now, what is going on here? Are my parents living in a hatchet house? What possibly could take place?
I'm a little nervous. Is this a scene from Ozark? I'm a little nervous about that.
Is my dad shaving with a cheese grater?
What types of Band-Aids either, right? Like,
here's the thing. When I looked at it, he ordered like 9 things of Band-Aids and then still had $4 left over and bought one more box of SpongeBob SquarePants Band-Aids.
Well, I think
for
they know their
$3.
son's on blood thinners. He's like, well, if he nicks himself in my house, it's going to be a murder house. So he's getting
it. Honestly, we probably should have bought some for the studio, right?
I mean, honestly, but like, and I think maybe, I'm assuming my dad's probably on the same blood thinners because genetically speaking, we got the same ticker. But still, I'm thinking to myself, what is my dad? Is he juggling knives in his free time?
Yeah, Halloween's coming up. Will that be what they're handing out this year at the Clary household?
I asked my mom, I'm like, are you adding on to the house and putting it together with Band-Aid strips? What are we doing here?
A Reese's and a SpongeBob Band-Aid. That's what you'll be getting at the Clary household.
They literally have 100 boxes of Band-Aids showing up at the house. Okay.
It is time to give out our Camp Champ of the day. No easy transition from Band-Aids to great donuts.
I mean,
it's brought to you by Quack Daddy Donuts, and it's going to go to... I kind of went back and forth on this one. I'm going to give it to Rodrigo Blankenship. I know we've talked a lot about the punting today for the Colts, but yesterday, Jake Verity, who, Jake, I said to you yesterday, why is Jake Verity still on the roster?
Yeah, that is kind of a surprise, is it not?
I certainly said that yesterday after practice. Jake Verity had 4 field goal attempts yesterday. He made 1 of them.
Let me ask you this. Is there any chance? They did this with Danny Kite. Is there any chance now with Rigoberto Sanchez was their kickoff guy, right?
Yeah, Hot Rod has done some kickoffs in the NFL.
But if they want to save his leg, is there any way that Verite is kept strictly as the kickoff specialist if the guy that they get as a punter doesn't do that?
No. I mean, Hot Rod, I think like in 20 career touchbacks, I looked up yesterday, he's got like 14 career kickoffs. He's got 14 touchbacks. So I think they're okay there. But again, they kept Verity before yesterday's injury happened. I thought he'd just get cut yesterday. 1 of 4. Hot Rod went 3 of 4. Now, this is kind of what we saw at Hot Rod last year in camp. Last year, he was perfect in camp. Didn't miss a single one. I worry about him more kind of in-game kicking. Practice kicking, he's always been
I don't think anybody
really
worries
good.
about his accuracy, just his
And to be fair,
range.
his long-distance accuracy has been pretty good. Yesterday, he was 2 of 3 from north of 50 yards. So I will give out our camp champ, practice number 14, to Rodrigo Blankenship. One other note from yesterday's practice, I know we focused a lot today on Shaquille Leonard and Rigoberto Sanchez. We did see rookie Bernard Ryman get his first starting look of training camp.
Do we read into that?
I want to see today's practice. It was a very interesting formation they used. Again, everybody was healthy on the starting offensive line. They put Ryman in at left tackle. They took Danny Pinter out of the starting lineup and moved him as the backup center with the second team. They took Braden Smith and moved him from right tackle to right guard, and they flipped Matt Pryor from left tackle to right tackle, keeping Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly in their same spots. It was a bit interesting. You know, Pryor's got some right guard experience. I thought they might put him there, leave Braden Smith at right tackle. It didn't last very long, but it's the first time we've seen the rookie out of Central Michigan and Ryman get any first-team look here in camp. So I think it's just something to keep an eye on today. I don't think there's anything too much of it. Frank Reich said after practice, just Chris Strasser trying to change things up. But
I like
it was interesting.
I'm a big fan, as you know, of versatility on the line. And I like the fact that they may be just looking to see where can we plug other guys in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like where's that balance, Jake? And like you want to build the 5 though.
No. I get that.
It's a new 5.
I get that, but at some point, Kevin, you need to find out. Look, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, right? And at some point, you need to find out Okay, in the unlikely event that in the third quarter in Foxborough, Matt Pryor, Pryor, you know who the backup would be, but Matt Pryor twists his ankle, and so then Danny Pinter, who was already filling in for Ryan Kelly, you need to know every possible equation that needs to be unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you out on that. Again, it sounds like starters will play right around a half on Saturday night against the Bucks. All right, coming up in about 5 minutes, it's the pop quiz, 317-239-1070. Another spot in our fantasy football league. So that's coming up shortly for our pop quiz participants. Let's hit a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. Brought to you by QC Kinetics. Relieving your joint pain at QCkinetics.com. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
87-year-old Len Dawson, Hall of Fame quarterback, winning quarterback of Super Bowl V for the Kansas City Chiefs, and more importantly, from a local level, one of the cradle of quarterbacks at Purdue University, the 1954 national passing efficiency leader as a sophomore for the Boilermakers, 1973 NFL Man of the Year, and beloved personality within sports media in Kansas City. Len Dawson, condolences to friends, family, fans of Len Dawson, passing away at the age, Kevin, of 87.
And speaking of Purdue, we'll have Tom Dienhart on tomorrow to talk about the upcoming season. A week from tomorrow, the Boilers with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. They get the Big Fox crew in the building for that one.
Johnson's on the call.
It'll be Purdue and Penn State from Ross-Ade Stadium as Purdue gets in pretty anticipated season underway a week from
Can't
Thursday.
wait to hear a 3-yard gain in the second quarter be called like it's Doug Flutie.
Unfortunately, the run for Hagerstown came to an end yesterday in Williamsport. They get 10-run ruled in 4 innings. I think the only person in Indiana happy about that is Luke Rhodes. He's a native. The long snapper's a native of Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, who is who Hagerstown lost to. You think the kids are more mad about the loss or the fact that they have to go to school?
Yeah, no kidding, man. The school part would be, I'm telling you, that's the one thing about the Little League World Series that I kind of worry about with kids is like you go from being celebrities to just like, okay, you're right back to just being a normal kid again. How do they handle that, But
yeah, 12 years old, I would hope it's rather seamless.
I do hope they had fun, though, and had a good time, right? And met some kids from other places. That's part of the whole experience, no doubt about it.
And their manager, Patrick Vincent, with us, talked about how, they're staying next to, Australia and Canada, was it?
Yeah.
So that's really cool in the dorm life.
Cincinnati Reds yesterday, losers to the Phillies 7-6. The Cubs and Cardinals splitting a doubleheader. Cubs winning Game 1, snapping the Cards' 8-game losing streak. Cards started a new streak in Game 2, winning 13-3. Guardians over the Padres yesterday, 3-1. It was the Yankees over the Mets, 4-2. In the International League, oh, by the way, cute fella, Baltimore beating the White Sox 5-3. International League, it was Indians over the Rochester Red Wings by a final of 3-2.
Colts, their final noon practice of camp today. Thursday, tomorrow, we'll be out there doing the show. That's a 10 a.m. start time for their actual final practice of camp. But just 2 days left at Grand Park. I saw DeForest Buckner just tweeted at Pat McAfee, I know you still got some juice in that leg. Last dance, ? Will Pat McAfee get a call from Chris Ballard?
No. They don't.
Does Pat McAfee make more money doing what he's doing right now or returning to the NFL?
He would be losing money by returning to the Colts. They would not pay him what he gets paid right now. I can tell you that much.
Elijah, Pat McAfee's agent over here.
Tell you what, Elijah was on that one.
With no hesitation.
He grabbed that mic like Marshall Mathers in 8 Mile.
For real. Elijah's back on the board, by the way. This is the final 34 minutes that we've been around Elijah, right? Elijah, you getting sad? Nostalgic?
A little bit. I got a song keyed up for the last segment that's gonna really set the mood of melancholy.
Do we need to bring Kleenex or anything?
He's been thinking about this one. Clearly, he's been thinking about that.
It's me and my dad. My dad was like, you should play this song in your last segment. So I was like, I'll do it for you if you want me to. So.
Okay.
Jake, I did want to note this. Yesterday, remember we had Pete Sampson on, who covers Notre Dame for The Athletic. He had a tweet yesterday related to the Big Ten media rights, saying that the Sports Business Journal reported that if Notre Dame joins the Big Ten in the next 7 years, there is specific language in the media rights for different rights fees for adding Notre Dame, he pointed out that they are the only school mentioned in there by name.
Telling you.
Is that good lawyering, or is that belief of we think Notre Dame will be added at some point in the next 7 years?
The latter. I think Notre Dame will be added in 24, and Stanford will come with them. And then the carousel stops.
So will that be 18 in the Big Ten at that point?
Yep.
Does 20 sound like a better number?
I mean, there's that too, right? To which point you probably go either Pacific Northwest with Oregon and Washington, or you maybe still try to get Colorado and Utah.
Do you believe like the Big Ten only wants to add universities that have a high academic reputation?
I do.
And those sorts
the
of
only that's not in that, I forget the name of it. There's some little secret society of Scholastic, whatever. Nebraska is the only that's not in that. Has something to do with the academic ranking of a school. But yes, I do believe that that's an important factor in the Big Ten.
You could make the argument Nebraska's football team has not been at the standard either. That's acceptable.
Yeah, that is true.
All right, we're going to do the pop quiz next. Spot in our Fantasy Football League, 317-239-1070.
Visit Samsung.com now to pre-order the new Galaxy Z Flip 4 or Z Fold 4 and get a free storage upgrade in case. Valid through 8/25/2022. See terms and conditions that apply.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction and sick of the pills? Well, today, Wednesday, August 24th, we're running an unprecedented one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Pine Grove Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. Even Cambridge has studied our technology. If you're ready to transform your love life, grab your phone. Today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. Also, a gift that can produce powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that, guys. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is our most lucrative offer ever, worth $1,200. But call today, Wednesday, and qualify totally free. 317-552-1111. That's 317-552-1111. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Pine Grove Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 317-552-1111.
Discover downtown Indy with Indiana Sports Corp's annual Indy Ultimate, Saturday, September 10th, starting and finishing at Monument Circle. Experience the best of downtown's venues and landmarks with this 5-mile run-walk. This year's brand new route includes Carroll Stadium, the state capitol, and favorites like Lucas Oil Stadium and Victory Field. The Jim Irsay collection will be up in Lucas Oil Stadium with items used by some of the greatest artists in music history. Run with a friend or bring a group. Participants get an Adidas shirt, medal, and Indy 11 voucher to a future match. Register now at IndyUltimate.com.
At Eskenazi Health, our patients are treated with compassion and skill. That's why Eskenazi Health is looking for professionals who share our mission and are dedicated to serving the community. As an employee of Indiana's top hospital for social responsibility and community health investment, you'll enjoy excellent benefits, competitive pay, and unwavering leadership support. Learn more about Eskenazi Health careers online at eskenazihealth.edu/careers.
Hey there, it's Jake Quarry for DraftKings. You know, college football back, getting ready right now. The season is about to get underway, and DraftKings has the opportunity for you, that is correct, to bet just $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets instantly. For example, Ball State over-under 5 in terms of wins for the season. For Purdue, that number is 7.5. Indiana, this one is tempting. The over-under just 4 in terms of wins for the season. And for Notre Dame, I'd hammer the over on this. 8.5. 8.5 is the over-under for total wins for the season for the Fighting Irish. And you know, right now on DraftKings, you can literally make a $5 bet and get $200 in free bets instantly, win or lose. You can do all of that. And then, of course, you can make it even add in some same-game parlays, like, for example, which team scores first, whether or not somebody exceeds a certain number of rushing yards. That's what you love about the very easy-to-use, very easy-to-navigate, and believe me, I am a chimp when it comes to these things, and DraftKings app is very easy to use. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code 1075FAN. Think about that.
Put on your helmet. It's about to get real.
Brandon Faison came over with Gus Bradley. What made you come over?
You know, another thing that you can actually wager on in the DraftKings Sportsbook app is whether or not this is Elijah's last day. Probably so after that hijinks. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code 1075TheFan. That's 1075FAN. Bet just $5 on college football. Get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code 1075FAN only at DraftKings Sportsbook app. Must be 21 or older, Indiana only. One per new customer. Minimum $5 deposit and wager. $200 issued as 8 $25 bets. Restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. That's DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Over under on Elijah's internship experience, 29 minutes.
The Ride with JMV.
The Rigoberto Sanchez news just really stinks. And here's why, too. You take a positive and you turn it into a negative. One of the better punters of the NFL, also holds for the team. At the end of training camp, you lose him for the season. Now you got to go out and find somebody else. I'm sorry. You never want to turn a positive into a negative like this. This news regarding Sanchez stinks.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with Kevin and Query. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
I felt like I was with Rosie right there. Oh, I just hit the button.
Elijah's learning on the job. That's what internships are for. We don't know what job exactly, but he's learning on the job.
Elijah, enjoy.
Hopefully nothing that involves like heavy machinery. I hit the button. Well, now I've lost my arm.
Elijah, enjoy sophomore year at Franklin. We will miss you in studio.
Kevin implying that we won't be seeing him in his sophomore year. Right?
Jake's going to help you move in, I think.
I am.
Jake's got plenty of female products to drop off at your dorm.
That's right. That's right.
How's the pop quiz look to you?
I've not looked at it yet. Should I look at that? Let's see.
It's number
here.
5. I feel like number 5 is a repeat question, Scotty.
Scott, what are we doing here?
A lot of football to begin today's pop quiz. And again, a spot in our fantasy football league. We've got 3 more open here. Mark, I kind of like the idea of a draft during the show.
I do too.
I was thinking about this more.
Yeah.
If you do a draft that begins at 9, that allows people to get to work. And obviously, we do not need to talk about the draft endlessly. But the 9 o'clock hour, chime in with some fantasy football advice. Help out anybody that.
Yeah. I say we do it live, and it's not like we're not gonna broadcast it live. We'll just occasionally say, "Oh,
yeah,
good pick" or whatever like that. But we're not
multitasking,
right? Yeah, we're capable of that. I think.
I like it.
Is Nebraska not a research university?
Is that what it is?
My buddy Bart said, I think it's just that Nebraska's not a research university.
Yeah, that sounds right.
What do they research in Nebraska?
Oh, probably corn.
Different uses of corn. Do you know what state produces more corn than any other in the United States?
Indiana.
I believe it's actually Illinois. much to the stun apparently of the loquacious Elijah behind
Didn't
the mic.
I hear Drew Storn is doing?
I thought it was popcorn. He's making whiskey or booze or something out of the
in a can out of the Field of Dreams corn.
Okay. How do we know it's from that corn exactly?
That's a good question.
The ghost of shoeless Joe Jackson improves it.
Do you know what % of grown corn in the United States is actually for human consumption?
2.
Elijah says 2. Kevin, your guess?
Do you know that, Elijah?
No, but I know considering that most of the major big cornfields you see are not really for human consumption. They're like for feed.
Correct.
Or they
It's
are
for feed. Feed or ethanol. 10% human consumption.
I was going to guess
8. 8% of that consumed by me at the state fair. Okay, pick a number, Kevin, 1 through 8.
Let's go with 2.
Eddie.
Hey. I'm so excited. I can't believe I get to play in the Fantasy Football League. And maybe win a Jiffy Lube prize back.
How about that, Eddie? Your excitement sounds genuine.
I am. I know I'm going to win the league. I just wanted to see if I can win the oil change.
Okay. Eddie, you sound like a confident fella. You've got a good radio voice. Have you done radio voiceover work before?
No.
Can you say this for me? Can you just say, I'm Eddie, and you're listening to 107.5 The Fan?
I'm Eddie, and you're listening to 105 The Fan.
That's right. It's 107.5 The Fan, Eddie.
We'll send you the script.
Are you sure you want to play in this fantasy league?
Well, I don't know if you guys want me to play in the fantasy league.
Hoosier Halty tweets that the IndyCar safer barrier was developed at Nebraska.
That is correct. University of Nebraska.
Huh.
Eddie, you sound like a nice fellow. Are you a native of Indianapolis?
Yes, sir.
Now, are you sure about that? And what high school would that be, Eddie?
Noblesville.
Oh, okay. Is your last name Miller by chance?
No, but I was a Miller, yes, for sure.
One of my favorite spots to watch a high school basketball game, the Mill.
Yeah, it's a good place. There's a cigar store right there on the square. You ever gone to that cigar store, Eddie?
No.
Okay. You really from Noblesville?
Oh, yeah. All
right.
Have you
Eddie
ever sled at Forest Park, Eddie, or jumped off the high dive?
I did an inward flip off the platform once. Just tried it and did it. Yeah.
Man.
How old were you when that happened, Eddie?
See that splash in Lebanon.
I was about 15. My mom was watching. She was scared to death, but yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right, Eddie, would you like for me, that would be Jake, to lead you off with question number 1, or would you like for Kevin to go ahead and lead you off with question number 1?
Jake can go ahead.
All right. Eddie, here we go. The Colts host the Tampa Bay Bucks in the preseason finale on Saturday night. Who is the head coach of Tampa Bay? Is it Bruce Arians, Raheem Morris, Dirk Cotter, or Todd Bowles?
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians actually retired now. Eddie, would you like to guess for a second one? And I will tell you this. It's something that Bo Schembechler did not win a lot of. Would it be Raheem Morris,
Bowles.
Dirk Cotter, or Todd Bowles? Okay.
I feel like Eddie and Todd Bowles have similar voices. Eddie, your favorite fantasy draft pick of all time?
Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes. He was like the star of the league there.
I would have gone with Julie Louis-Dreyfus, but that's cool. To each their own.
Number 2, Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback and Purdue legend Len Dawson passed away overnight at the age of 87. Dawson led the Kansas City Chiefs to Super Bowls 1 and 4. Speaking of Priest Holmes, I guess, winning the latter. Named the NFL team that drafted Dawson with the 5th overall pick in 1957. Chiefs, Browns, Steelers, or Giants?
Browns.
By the way, apparently I was wrong. Iowa is, in fact, now the largest corn producer. I'll have to get my act together, I guess. Number 3, Adrian Peterson is listed as the NFL's active career rushing leader with 14,918 yards. Peterson, though, is a free agent and is not on any team's preseason roster. If, in fact, his career is over, who takes over as the active career rushing leader? Was it Heisman Trophy winner Derrick Henry? Was it, I believe, Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram II? Was it Ezekiel Elliott or Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon Bell.
I always find it wild that Frank Gore ended his career with exactly 16,000 rushing yards.
Did he really?
Le'Veon Bell was the guy.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Eddie, number 4. On this day in 1919, Cleveland pitcher Ray Caldwell threw a complete game in defeating the Philadelphia Athletics 2-1. Caldwell finished the game despite suffering a unique injury. What happened to Caldwell? He was struck in the head by a line drive. He was beamed while batting. He was struck by lightning while on the mound. Or he was hit by a stray bullet while on the mound.
Hit by lightning.
Wow.
Eddie, you said that so casually.
Impressive. Lastly, today's the 71st anniversary of Grandstand Managers Night, in which a Major League Baseball team allowed fans to vote on managerial moves. A member of the team would hold up a sign asking a question, steal, pinch hitter, remove pitcher, and have fans vote by holding up cards that said yes and no. Which team, which, by the way, did a lot of gimmicks like this, actually held Grandstand Managers Night on August 24th of 1951? By the way, the game took 36 hours because of this. Was it the St. Louis Browns, the Chicago White Sox, the Cleveland Indians, or the Boston Braves?
My name's Eddie. Listen to 107.5, and I select the Cleveland Indians.
Now, here's the thing, Eddie.
That's great.
Now, Eddie, here's the thing. If you were to combine your first name with the name of this team, you would get the most dynamic wide receiver in Indiana Firebirds Arena League history. Do you know what player that was?
Unfortunately not, no.
Okay.
Touchdown Eddie Brown, right?
What if you were to change? You said Cleveland Indians, right?
Yes.
What if you were to actually go with that city's football franchise instead of baseball franchise?
Browns.
Okay. So we'll go with Browns for question 5. All right, here we go.
Head coach of the Buccaneers, not Bruce Arians. It is Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles, correct.
And proud.
Now, here's the thing. The dude for Cleveland was struck by lightning. It was the St. Louis Browns for Grandstand Managers Night in 1951. But who did he go with for the running back?
He went Le'Veon Bell.
It's a really good guess, actually. Mark Ingram, believe it or not, at 78 right now, would be the leading rusher if Adrian Peterson does not play this year. And it is the Pittsburgh Steelers for question number 2.
You don't get to come back tomorrow.
But Eddie did
you don't even get a lousy copy of our home game. You're a complete loser.
You waited till day 20 here at Grand Park to whip that out.
So, I mean, we're going to... What day are we on now?
Gosh, there were 20 days of
I know, isn't
Colts
that wild?
practice last year.
Listen,
it seems like this year's longer.
Guys, I'm old enough to remember training camp in Terre Haute when it was like seemingly like a 6-week deal. 2 months. It was crazy.
Today is day 15 for them. So, yeah, 16 total practices there.
What all do we have scheduled for tomorrow?
We're going to have Tom Dienhart talk about Purdue. What'd you say the over-under for Purdue was? 7.5 or 8?
7.5. For Notre Dame, it's 8.5.
That's interesting. Both of those are interesting. I lean over on both.
I would agree with that. Indiana over-under at 4.
God, Purdue's schedule is such a joke. Such a joke. But I guess you could say that about a lot of Big Ten West teams when you don't draw, Michigan, Ohio State, or
you're right. I mean,
Penn State out of the East. Still no official word yet on Rigoberto Sanchez, although you do have DeForest Buckner tweeting at Pat McAfee asking him if there's any juice left in the leg. We'll preview day 15 of Colts camp coming up next to round out the show.
At Payless Liquors, Charlie says sell it, and that includes great wines like Prisoner's Red Blend, just $42.99 a bottle. Kendall Jackson Bender's Reserve Chardonnay's $9.99 a bottle, and Yellowtail is only $8.99 for the 1.5 liter. Plus, it's just a quick in and out at all 26 Payless locations for $17.92 small batch. The 750s are only $29.99. Miller High Life 12-pack bottle, $7.99, and variety 10 packs of 99 brand liquors are only $8.99, and that's at Payless Liquors, where you don't pay more, you get more, and you pay less.
FanDuel wants to get ready for game day when college football kicks off this week. Hey, it's Mark from Kevin and Query. Right now, new customers can get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week 1. Just place a $5 bet, and you can get $150 in free bets if you win or lose. So IU, Purdue, and Ball State all off until next week, but Big Ten games to keep an eye on this weekend. Nebraska are 2 touchdown favorites against Northwestern, while Illinois is 10.5-point favorites against Jake's Wyoming Cowboys. If you've been thinking about joining...
Pokes.
That's right. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the perfect time to give it a shot. The app is safe, secure, and easy to use. They're always hooking up with great odds, and when you win, you get paid fast. So see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and sign up with promo code MARK to place a first $5 bet and get $150 in free bets guaranteed to kick off the college football season. Again, that's promo code MARK, M-A-R-C, exclusively on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Again, check out their everyday odds boosts and specials during baseball season. They've got $5 Dinger Tuesdays, and they've got the odds boosts and specials for the college football and NFL seasons, respectively. So give it a check out right now. Again, promo code MARK, M-A-R-C, turn $5 into $150 in free bets. 21 and over and present in Indiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Life's full of unexpected joys, like problems with water. That's why there's Michaelis, a crew of 24/7 experts who are rescue ready, day or night. One phone call for a gazillion disasters, from frozen pipes and sewer backups to your teenager pleading ignorance on the proper use of a plunger. At Michaelis, they know that water damage waits for no one. Their fleet of trucks is, well, fleet. Over 3 decades of finding the source of the problem, then cleaning up, drying out, and restoring your home or business to better than new condition. That's Michaelis. Fully licensed and insured, and fully empathetic to your anxiety, including dealing with insurance claims. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
In the construction business and tired of dealing with the indifference of big corporate suppliers, Quality Supply and Tool on South Harding Street understands. For over 25 years, owner Kevin Ane has had a different approach.
We at Quality Supply and Tool take pride in being a locally owned family business, committed to service. And every customer's needs are different, and we truly believe in shaping our business to our customers' needs. That's what separates us from the competition.
That's Quality Supply and Tool with additional locations in Bloomington and Jeffersonville to serve Hoosiers better. Partner with Quality Supply and Tool and think outside the box. Store.
The ultimate end of summer party is coming. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022, September 3rd and 4th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Featuring great music, great food, and lifestyle with performances by Daryl Hall and John Oates, Cage the Elephant, John Fogerty, Portugal the Man, plus Lucinda Williams, Trampled by Turtles, The Four Tops, and many more. Multiple stages, multiple days. All In Music Festival Labor Day Weekend 2022. Get details and tickets now at allinfestival.com.
Hey, it's JMV. Did you know the lack of sleep from snoring can lead to other health issues for both the snorer and the partner? My friends at Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic can help. They do it with a simple oral device, custom fitted for effectiveness and comfort. It can be a same-day solution in some cases. A 1-hour appointment can change your life. I know, it's changed mine. I get more restful sleep and feel more rejuvenated every day. Set an appointment today. StopYourSnoreNow.com or 317-482-7900.
Here's what's happening with the Fan.
Things are heating up at Colts camp, and we'll be live from Grand Park Tuesday through Thursday this week, giving you up-to-the-minute reports, stories, and interviews. For more information about when you can hear all your favorite shows, head to 1075thefan.com. And remember to follow The Fan on social media. The Fan is on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like and follow The Fan for updates and contest opportunities on all things sports.
For more info, click on 1075thefan.com. Defending state champs Center Grove hosts Carmel on Friday Night Football. The action begins at 7 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Find the sunshine, leave the rain. They said this town will waste your time.
It's Kevin and Query. You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Some gotta win, some gotta lose.
Now this is Elijah. Is this your swan song serenade to us?
Yes, it is. Good time, Charlie's got the blues, Jake.
Good time, Charlie's got the blues.
So do you have the blues because you're leaving us? Is that right?
Well, obviously.
Well, who wouldn't, right?
Now, I saw a little audible SH, maybe a couple other letters after that when you hit the button there to get us back from break. Was that a remix or was that a...
Yeah, okay. That's the Kevin and Query special remix.
Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. So that's the go-to song, or is that just the sentimental? Is that the go-to Elijah song or the sentimental?
It's the sentimental song, the song that I'm going away.
They played that as you walked out of the Morgan County Fair a couple weeks ago?
They definitely did, yes. They were blasting.
Now, the Morgan County Fair, you said, had no animals or rides, correct?
Correct.
It was just a bunch of art on display?
It was a bunch of art on display, some old ladies bickering over the price of their quilts, and a small cassette player playing a Jason Aldean cassette tape. I don't even know where they got the Jason Aldean cassette tape from, but they were playing it on that, and that was pretty much it.
By the way, during the break, here are the things that you miss out on, folks, and we're sorry that you do. Aside from Elijah frantically pushing buttons during the break, which is fun, it's like commercial roulette in here. We have conversation, number one, where I was corrected that it is Iowa, in fact, and not Illinois, that has taken back their claim as the most corn produced. Apparently in 2020, Iowa surpassed Illinois again. Secondly, thank you to those who let me know that it is the Association of American Universities, that Nebraska is not currently a member, but they were at the time that they were admitted to the Big Ten. So Nebraska was in the AAU, and they used that to get into the Big Ten, and then they decided to leave the whole thing. Then I asked a trivia question to Scotty, who writes our pop quiz. And the trivia question that I asked was, in 1984, the Chicago Bulls selected Michael Jordan with their first pick in the draft. I believe they did 10 rounds back then. Who did the Bulls use their final selection on? Their last pick. Who did they use it on? And I gave the hint that it was someone from the University of Houston. Scotty, you've been thinking about it long and hard now. Are you waving the white flag?
I'm waving the white flag because I had to look it up. So
He said he had to look it up. And the answer, Scotty?
Olympian Carl Lewis is correct. I guess they figured with that athleticism, it would be worth getting a look.
Did Mike Conley's dad play basketball at a high level? I know he's a terrific track athlete.
He was a triple jumper. I don't know that he played, but did he go to school in Arkansas? And he was an Olympic triple jumper, but I don't know if he played basketball.
You watch any Hard Knocks last night?
Did not. I watched part 2, as I mentioned, of the Manti T'eo documentary.
Right. Mark, feel free to chime in. I thought Dan Campbell, and I said this last week following the joint practices with kudos to Frank Reich and Dan Campbell, because around the NFL right now, all we see are fights in these joint practices. And Dan Campbell pretty much looked at his football team and was like, you start an all-out brawl, you're done. Your evaluation is over. Now, if Aiden Hutchinson started the brawl, I'd probably like to see him back up those statements. But I do think both those coaches deserve credit for both their teams acting in the manner
Somebody
that
sent
they
me a
did.
thing the other day that was like, you know what? They're like, I would play for Dan Campbell.
I think there's a lot more behind Dan Campbell than just what we see. Like, we talked about Tom Crean and Tom Allen a little bit earlier. You know, how lasting is that? I think there's some substance to Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, players were talking junk back and forth, like Zaire Franklin, and I forget who was on the line. But they were going at it.
Yeah, they were.
Talking junk to everybody. And, even Deuce Staley lost his voice yelling at people.
I felt bad for Deuce there.
And it was pretty entertaining, though. And then the little conversation that Dan Campbell and Frank Reich had made it hint like the Lions and Colts might do this again next year.
You know, the thing about the joint practices I found interesting, the Colts have hosted them for like 5 straight years now.
Yeah.
I don't think the Colts have, I don't know, Jake, can you remember the last time the Colts went away for joint practices?
Well, Champaign.
What year would that have been?
Peyton's rookie year against the Rams.
That's wild that they've gone 25 years.
Because who have they hosted recently? The Bears, the Ravens,
the Lions twice,
Bengals,
the Browns.
Browns. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Conley
Panthers
Sr., by the way.
Last year, the Panthers.
Mike Conley Sr. played basketball at Arkansas as a freshman.
I'll be curious to see how the Colts operate in this punter search, assuming Rigoberto Sanchez has torn his Achilles. Because to the point earlier, I think there are some backup quarterbacks that do hold for their teams in the NFL. But I think for the most part, it's the punter's job. So I know this might not seem like top of mind, but the Colts are looking for a punter, a holder, and then I think Hot Rod could handle kickoffs if he is indeed your place kicker, but maybe a kickoff specialist as well.
Yeah, I mean, creates a little bit of a curveball for them that they weren't anticipating. I would imagine that the way this usually goes is like sometime later today you get the proverbial tweet like, the Colts have worked out the following punters.
Mm-hmm. Right. And obviously Rigoberto on injured reserve. I had zero issue with Rigoberto Sanchez running sprints. He's part of the football team. He's on the football field when live plays are happening.
Yeah.
He was part of a field goal operation that missed 50% of their kicks yesterday. The Colts had practiced once in 5 days. No issue with them conditioning, let alone Rigoberto taking part.
If you have to recondition from or come back from an Achilles injury and you are forced to go back to your college campus to have those trainers work on you, if you're Rigoberto Sanchez, that is winning in like December. Yeah, I'll just go back to Honolulu. I'm cool. Right?
I think he's got an off-season home. I don't know if it's out there, but I think it's out west. It's pretty good weather for him. So we'll wait. Final word on that. Again, Colts practice today at noon. We'll talk a little Purdue football tomorrow, and then back at camp. We will be at camp for tomorrow's show. Elijah, great work, man.